Like I went. One of the things that I sort of had as a sort of bucket list was like see one of those ferry forts. I went to one and thought it was a bit naff because it was
Really?
like because it was a very touristy one. And like
Uh,
you could see that they had like concreted in the stones and stuff, so it didn't feel old. So I came back and was just like I was just driving around the countryside and was like, is there anywhere else nearby? Literally just this random field next to a farmer's house, and it was like this old Iron Age, like basically all the big like slate slabs, and just literally no one else there, just proper old school stuff.
like an actual relic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just was really nice and peaceful. Sort of felt good.
I think I'd be the same as you. It's just whenever something looks like it's been tampered with to be turned into a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear the way like apparently like the Great Wall of China, like a lot of parts of it have been like built back up or repaired or they're under construction.
Just to
It's
try
like
and
card plugging in on that idiot broad saying about that. Um,
you can imagine like a lift or an escalator or something going up to it. Like, yeah, I think again, you want to see the things that you know attracted you to that country, but also you don't want this to be stuck in a tourist trap all the time.
I mean, like the way Rome has the Colosseum and the way it's
Yes.
been left as is.
Yes.
Do you remember there was a story a while back that was it some British tourists or something that decided that they would write their name on the wall and they were getting lifted for it and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Of course you fucking know.
Yeah, you'll be fine, right? Like,
I said, oh yes, this landmark that everyone in the world
Aye.
recognizes. I didn't know that might be frowned upon.
yeah, just I mean, don't get me wrong. Historically, there's graffiti on the stuff.
Yeah.
But fair enough to admit. But maybe in a couple hundred years, maybe that'll be a wee addition to the tourist attraction. But
Yeah.
right now, you're getting lifted. Come on.
Yeah, it's effective. Like if someone went in and there's cave scrollings of like cave, like you'd see like a crude picture of a man with a spear and a buffalo. If someone went in with a pen and drew a big penis on it, it kind of ruins the I don't know. It just the mystery and the magic about it.
The question is, are you adding to or taking away? Likelihood is you're taking away.
Yeah.
Because certainly didn't live their life, especially not around that time of fighting saber-toothed tigers and all that sort of carry on. Like,
I know they didn't have the luxury of chalk straps back then. Imagine it. Oh, oh, and running off of the club. I'm just presuming that's how they communicated back then.
just that's very presumptuous of you. I dare you.
I know they could be like, I say, one second there, boys.
Could be a lot more eloquent than we are
I
today.
just need to do on this jock strap before we go hunting some wild saber-toothed tiger, I say. But yeah, I know you take for granted the stupid things that we take for granted now. Having a toilet, like
rather than like having to
sanitation.
Yeah, like in an ideal world, but have a pit somewhere that you're pooping into. But reality is that you probably pooped upstream and then drank the water way back when.
I don't feel right.
Yeah, just like, oh, let's go back up here and why is this drinking water brown now?
I feel like we had an Evian. Plus, you just know for a fact that, well, maybe I'm just twisted, but I just feel like that, living in close, small communities, people, sitting, waiting with a full chamber pot, waiting for someone to go past the door.
You're just
comes that fucker now. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Waiting for your neighbor who was, like having a party or something like that. Just like, oh, I had a curry last night. Get ready for this. Oh.
I know. You say you've just got your best, your new peasant garments on.
Your Sunday best.
I suppose what was it called back then?
So it wouldn't have like if you're talking like Victorian times, probably would have just been.
I'm thinking even further back. I'm even thinking like
a tunic.
Like
medieval sort of time.
Yeah, pretty much like maybe like the 17th century type period. I don't know. Garments, I'll go with
17th century. That would be 1800s.
That would be 16th.
Is it? Oh yeah, right. It's backwards, not forwards. Well, no, isn't it forwards? Because 21st
Because
century.
yeah, we're in the 21st century now.
Yeah.
So 1900s would be in the 20th century.
Yeah.
1800s would be 19th century. 1700s would be 18th.
Yes.
And 16th would be 17th. 1600s would be 17th. If you get me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing notable I could think at that time is what there was the whole thing to do with Sir Francis Drake, the Renaissance period.
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth. Sorry.
I think. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of Renaissance period. So you're talking like Da Vinci sort of time period, but I don't know how their sanitation would have been. I mean, it must have been okay because I mean, it was fairly well after like medieval period. You know what I mean? So surely
the Black Death would have actually been around then.
Yeah.
Because it was, what was it? The year 1666 was the Great Fire of London.
I think so, yeah.
And I think that's part of why I killed off the.
I just literally purged, just burnt out the sickness.
Yeah. History. I know because the things that got the blame and the people that got the blame looking back. There was.
I mean, I remember looking at, because I did medicine through time as part of my history thing in school, and it was one of the clips. You're getting some live editing of the numbers here as we go, but there were photos of them like burning people at the stake, like groups of people, shall we say, and it just was wild that even at that point they were still just like, oh, you know what, it's this minority, it's their fault for all this sickness.
And it's always a given. It's always. I know what the problem is right now.
I've got the answer.
Jewish people.
That's exactly what you're saying that, but ironically, it was an old German like drawing for during the Black Death, and it was them burning Jews at the stake. And it's just like, flip's sake, folks, you're not really helping your case here. Like, you clearly have had some anti-Semitic feelings in the past.
Some deep-seated issues.
There was a precedent there whenever sort of the 1930s came along.
Apparently, I heard a story, I don't know if it's true, that there was someone that mentioned to me that apparently they actually think that part of the reason why Hitler had an issue with Jews was because apparently his mom had cancer or something, and the doctor, their family doctor, was Jewish, and he couldn't do anything for her.
Right.
So,
but also I think he was half Jewish or a quarter Jewish or something like that.
Was he?
I think he was, yeah. Which was kind of again, with tyrants and fascism, there's always that underlying irony in a lot of stuff, you know.
There's like some sort of like extreme case of self-loathing, but not.
Because I mean, let's be honest, he was like, oh, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, and it's like, you're neither, mate.
Are you blind? Adolf, you know, there we go.
Can't even grow a full mustache, like, I mean.
Yeah, I know. Is that the best you can do? This is all I can grow. Not even stubble here.
Patch.
Imagine that, though. You know, like Specsavers existed in 1930s Germany. You know, they have the eye chart, and afterwards, you know, they give him some specs. He looks himself in the mirror. Oh my God, I'm not blonde and blue eyes. I don't know why I made Hitler sound like that, but anyway.
That or he was just colorblind, you know, and just like thought he had, you know, luscious golden locks. Oh,
I know. He's a classic case of, you know, the way there's some people look in the mirror and they see themselves like when they go to the carnival that, oh look, I'm so fat, even though maybe like they're like 10 stone. Whereas, you know, there's those people that see their own reflection like, yeah,
I am amazing. Look at this right here.
Yeah, and you're like, I wish I could see what you see. There's a Robert Burns poem about that.
Oh.
I can't remember the phrase, but it's something along the lines of, the gist of it is, you know, I wish that I could see for the eyes of others. So, like, that's the gist of it. If you extrapolate from it, is this saying, I wish I could see how others see me.
Yeah, sort of seeing the best rather than seeing the worst in yourself.
I think it was meant to be optimistic.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of optimistic. I mean, I always find it curious. Maybe it sounds a bit narcissistic, but you have so the fact is that a lot of people only experience you in like little slices, and yet they will have a perspective on you as a person. So like, you know what you're like because you're living with yourself 24/7.
Yeah.
But someone that you maybe see regularly on the bus, if you always fall asleep on the bus, do they think you're a lazy sod? But maybe you're not at all.
There's narcoleptic Nigel there.
Yeah. Whilst it could be also like, but the other person you see is in the coffee shop and you're cracking jokes and they just think you're a big comedian.
Well, yeah.
That's,
Well, it's the same. It's like, how you act in work is different than your social life. Sure, it's that whole thing. Was it that meme that I seen? That I don't know whether or not it is just one of those made up memes, and people go, "Oh, very good." The one about Japan, them claiming that
like
you have three faces. Yeah. The one for that generally everyone sees. The one that your close people like your friends and family see, and then one that only you will see. And I'm like, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I don't know how true it is that it's a defined thing, but I mean, it's a good sort of metaphor for how we typically get on a lot of the time.
Human nature.
Yeah, because how me and you'll get on with each other would be different, like to talking to close family members, for example, or talking to more so talking to like aunts, uncles, parents, and stuff like that. It would be a bit different compared to like talking to people in the workplace or in a shop or whatever. So there's always like little slices of yourself, I suppose people are saying.
Yeah. Whereas there's exceptions to every rule, though. I mean, Ed Gein, he definitely had more than three but they weren't his faces. If you don't know who Ed Gein is, no, he's actually who was inspired Hannibal Lecter, Norman Bates, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So is he like split personality thing, or was he just
he's a bit of
nutbag?
He came from like a small family from a small town. I can't remember what part of America, but rural part of America.
So right in the sticks.
And his mom was what you would call the negative version of being religious. The real fire and brimstone, like not even trying to sort of impart teachings, but just like
it's using it as a beating tool, I suppose might be a way to put it, or using it as a way to control.
Pretty much using it as a control method. But he, I say, came from a small family, and the dad passed away, and when the mum passed away, he, from what I've gathered, he still sort of in his head was, projecting her, as in like he was imagining she was there and talking to him. So I don't know what crossed his mind, but he just started randomly, first of all, like digging up dead bodies and making furniture out of dead bodies and like lampshades out of human skin and chairs with human arms and everything. So clearly not right, and not in the same mind.
No.
But then it escalated that something in his head, like his mother told him that like the version of his mummy had in his head had told him that, oh, your woman's a harlot, she needs to be, blah blah blah. So, but eventually, just by accident, really, I gathered that sort of someone ended up at his house, and that's when it all came to light. But he claimed, I don't remember any of this happening.
Right.
So I think I don't know whether or not he was put down as a literal, if it was multiple personality, if it was schizophrenic, but there's definitely he's not a normal fella.
No, flip sake, certainly not.
But I say, imagine like, oh, Ed, you leave the local bar, you want to come around to mine for don't mind the skin wallpaper.
I take a seat on that armchair. Like
literal
armchair.
I'm not talking about taking it to the next level, but so apparently I think that's part of where the whole thing with Norman Bates, him, believing that his mom's still alive and all that. That came from. I don't know what the influence to. No, sorry, he didn't influence Hannibal Lecter. He influenced. Have you ever read Silence of the Lambs or seen it?
Seen bits and pieces of it, yeah.
So Buffalo Bill in it. That's right. Because he was wanting to make effectively, from what I remember in the book, it was putting it across that he just wanted. I think he wanted to have the body of a woman type thing, or like this, like the appearance
Sort
of
of,
one. So he was like making a suit of human skin.
sort of like, yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I
Lovely light conversation.
yeah, we always have like conversations here, don't we?
Yeah,
That's yeah. I always remember watching Criminal Minds and stuff like that.
you see, to be honest, actually some. It's funny because there's like some episodes of Criminal Minds are fairly dark,
It's weird in
and
that
some of them are on in the afternoon during the day. And I'm
I
like,
it's it sounds so sad, but I don't mind watching them because you know it's dark, but at least to some degree there's going to be kind of a happy ending or some sort of closure at the end of them.
it's there's always a formula. There's always the first 5 minutes. Whoever you see on that screen, you're going to be dead in a minute.
Yep.
More likely, or
Or you don't find the
alternatively,
body.
they're the one that's about to do something.
True. Yeah.
And then sort of to pad it out while they're still trying to suss who this person is. There's going to be one or two more victims. So they're going to be like, right, we can get an MO here. He's 32, likes cheese crisps, and he mainly listens to the birdie dance on repeat. Some random specific things, and they're like, God, how do you know that? Criminal profilers, that's why. And then there's always that part at the very end where there's like someone who's maybe got a bit more screen time, where they're effectively going to be for the chopping block, but just at the last minute, they land and the doors get kicked in. They're just.
Oh, it was all part of the plan. It was meant to they draw the person out and catch them. Just like
guy's got like a meat cleaver over someone's head. Next minute, there's like, what do you call it, the black haired guy?
Oh.
I actually forget his name. His second name was Gibson.
Yeah.
Was it? No, it's not Cooper, is it?
I think it might be Cooper. Yeah.
I'm kicking in the door. Bang. But you know what? They're like comfort TV programs.
Yeah,
because you're just like.
They're a bit on the darker side of an easy watch, but they're still an easy watch.
It's funny. There's like these articles you'll see on Facebook and stuff, and psychologist says that if you unwind by watching true crime, red flags, and you're like, well, that's red flags about a lot of people then because they're fairly popular.
Yeah, put it this way: if they weren't getting made so many episodes, so many shows being made, like clearly people are watching them if they're putting that much money into making them. But I think there's sort of a curiosity at the darker side of what people can do.
I think the red flags for me would be if someone goes out of their way to see actual footage of actual harm to people.
Going to like that, doing the live leak stuff. Or maybe you're watching the documentaries and you're taking notes. That might be a little suspicious as well.
Yeah.
How not to get caught.
Yeah. Watching Dexter. Acid. No, yeah, I mean, I know it's like, I think I'm actually more surprised though in terms of the internet that I would have thought, but I think the internet's changed. And there was a YouTube video I was watching a while back. Remember I was saying about the whole dead link thing, where there's like little URLs and stuff that are expiring, and this is like also like references and stuff that Harvard students and stuff maybe done like a postgraduate thesis, and all their like references are now like dead links. So there's no way for people to chase them down to see where that source was. But the fact that the internet now, the majority of the bandwidth's ruled by effectively big corporations like your YouTube and your Google and Facebook, but the fact that the internet in terms of like the early 2000s and all that, and maybe up to before 2010, I would say the internet was a lot more edgy.
It was more or less like the Wild West. And also, if you built the website and managed to find somewhere to host it, you probably would have got traffic because there was just not enough to do on the internet at that point.
Yeah, and then, as I say, social media networks got deployed, and things like message boards are now like
MSN Messenger, because even stuff like Bebo and MySpace and stuff, I don't think they got. Well, I think because they sort of stuck in their own little box. They didn't really decide, we're gonna, do video, or we're gonna start selling people's data basically. And it was literally someone made a platform just as like I don't know. Yeah, you could argue it was to like get people Yeah,
the giver.
yeah. And again, it was more of a sort of mom and pop type of business. Obviously, they were still making money hand over fist, but they weren't trying to build themselves into these big, massive corporations. That are they would have if they could have, and the time just wasn't right. Maybe.
Well, the guy that owned the Senate MySpace, I'm near convinced that he not sell it off to someone. And there's a load of people say that you look in the story of the way he sold it off, and you're like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
As in, like, it was just unfair. It was just, like, he made money from it, but they're saying, like, in comparison to, what some other people made from selling their properties, he could have probably made a lot more.
I mean, it's hindsight's 2020. That was always the thing.
Reddit seems to be a bit of a mess how it's run because it's all moderators, and then the whole thing, unfortunately, is that there's meant to be, again, seeing a few things online about, there's one saying that depending on who moderates certain boards, obviously if they have a bias or disliking for some particular topic or a certain person, they can just choose to go no, which kind of curtails the whole concept of free speech which was meant to be the pillars of the internet.
Yeah.
Whereas now that is a dying principle. Because even like Facebook and Twitter, if you put something up in your...
Well, I suppose Twitter actually, I suppose with love him or hate him, Musk, he has tried to sort of make things a little bit more freedom of speech. Although I find changing it to X is a bit...
I don't get it myself.
I mean, there's a fella I met up with in town, and he was like, oh, it's this silliest, stupidest thing. He's just completely destroying this brand from blah, blah, blah. It's history being ruined. And just like, he bought the property. He can do as he pleases. I find it a bit weird, given that his idea is to have like this everything app, which we have tried time and time and time again, and it never happens.
It's like the metaverse.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, well, like any sort of software, if it tries to do everything, it tries to do everything great. It does nothing okay. I mean, random deviation, but you've worked with Jira before, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's a ticketing software that a lot of companies will use, and it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I know anyone who actually enjoys using it, but it's because it's used for everything.
Yeah.
And it just gets too complicated. But it's the same with this whole X thing. Like, he would have been better, I'm not a floppy Jillionaire, of course, so nobody I know, but surely you would try and build a few other applications that attach onto the ecosystem first, then just call it the X platform. But
yeah, you could have, let's say, be clever about it. There's 4 points in the X, 4 pillars of the X.
Yeah, there you
go. What would they be?
Social media,
social, music, finance, pornography. I don't know.
The pillars of the internet.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I know I can't really think of anything else.
Yeah. I even the second thing, like, well, it'd be social media, because that's media these days.
Mm-hmm.
Energy, transport. He's got with Tesla, and then something else, some other fourth point. So yeah, we need to think something.
Strange child names.
Yeah. Randomnamegenerator.com.
I don't know. I'd be curious to know if that weird kid name was his ex-wife's idea, because to be fair, based on some of the things she spouted, I'd say yes, it was her idea.
She seemed a bit eccentric. Like, she reminded me of, do you know your lady who played she played Lestrange in Harry Potter. Bellatrix Lestrange in Harry Potter. And she also played the wife of, do you know that one that, what do you call him? The guy who did Edward Scissorhands, but it was that one with the guy who cut people's hair, but they made them into pies. What do you call that?
Sweeney Todd. I know you're talking about Helena Bonham.
Yes. She had that sort of look about her, but I think Helena, from what I've seen on interviews and stuff,
she's based.
She has sound.
Yeah, she seems.
The other one is maybe a bit off the deep end.
I don't know. It seems to be quite a recurring thing now. You see quite a few that get to the edge, and in terms of literally the progression, they progressed this to the peak, and something's pushed them over the edge that they've That's it. It's like the whole story about your guy Graham Linehan that made Father Ted, and
Aye.
the way he went from the whole story is about he was attacking your man Count Dracula
Oh,
online. The way he was naturally in bad taste. He somehow taught. Do you know the story
oh
about
yes,
that?
yeah,
The pug
yeah. I taught the pug to do
do a
the.
Hitler salute, and but the thing was, I suppose, with that was, I could sort of see that he recorded that video to send to his girlfriend or his ex girlfriend, or whoever it was that owned it. That was meant to be just for them.
Yes.
So to me, it's a bit different. If someone, well, I know some knee-jerk reactionists would say, no, it's not. But I feel like if you make a joke in private with someone, I don't think I don't think you should be trial by fire
Well,
in
no,
public.
because there's a difference between making a private joke and making a public statement.
Mm-hmm.
But even the way I define it that way is everything these days is a public statement. Even a joke made in public on stage, people will take as a statement.
Well, even as well, if you did it like 12 years ago, for some reason you're you're judged by who you were.
Yes.
And like no one can remember who they were at that time. You might have been going for a bad time, or maybe you were an edgelord or something. You know, you could have said something, and people go, "Oh, you said that one. So what about that?" You go, "Man, I was 21.
There seems
I was
to
14."
be a lack of redemption in society to the extent that people can't change.
Because of people think that they've got some weird social scoring points.
Yeah.
If you're like exposing a terrible person,
Aye.
you know, there's no analysis of the approach or the bigger picture, as in like, someone publicly shaming someone, if they believe that they're virtuous and that they're a good person for exposing a wrong or an evil, it doesn't matter if they've done something heinous to get to that.
Again, the ends justify the means.
And you're like, I'm sorry, but technically by doing what you've done, you may be just as bad. It's like that whole thing with those Facebook pages, the ones that were hunting groomers.
Oh yes.
Because part of me, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's probably good that people know, who is a potential threat to the kids, but at the same time, I feel like to a certain degree, they're maybe doing that more for maybe attention to traffic, because there's been stories where it's went horribly wrong, that they've, like, somehow or other, they have actually ended up harassing the wrong person, and it's ruined their lives, and things have happened.
Let's be honest, like, it wouldn't take much for someone to take an umbrage against like someone that they know and just drop their name into one of these things.
There's been cases of that.
Yeah, like you would need to have some sort of due process to where you are either hiring private investigators or doing research, or like
let the police deal with it.
Exactly, like they're the professionals with us.
We know that those people. Well, the one part I don't agree with is the fact that whenever they serve their time, they get a new identity and moved into a new area.
I don't agree with that.
What?
No, like, I'm sorry, but there are very, I'd say for the most part, most criminals, well, there's a potential for them to
repeat offense.
Yeah, like the fact, but like, well, more so, I'm sort of thinking there's a chance people can change, people can improve themselves. The problem is, though, that folks who are doing that sort of thing, they're professional liars, and I'm sorry, but it's very unlikely that they are actually going to like not do something horrific like that. So why are you giving them a free pass, and you're quite literally opening the door for them to repeat that again? It's immoral.
It's effectively like dangling a stick between your legs in front of a lamb.
Yeah, you're asking to get bit.
Yeah. And you never hear the story about the first time that Ted Bundy got lifted?
No.
He literally he was representing himself in court. That's how egotistical he was.
Oh, why?
But he was going up. He was using the library in whatever jail he was in, and he got friendly. Apparently he was one of those people that was charismatic. Either he knew how to manipulate people into liking him or what, but he befriended the guard that would have been up in the library with him, and he somehow persuaded the guard, saying, getting about here, getting these books, would you be able to take these chains off me? And this guy did, and next minute when he wasn't looking, he like jumped out a window. Now I'm guessing he didn't like jump through a pane of glass, but he jumped down from the library,
probably an open window or whatever.
But I think he was on the run for like 17 days or something after. I think I don't know, can't remember. I think he did do something when he was in there. I think he escaped the second time, but that time it was something mad, like for an event or something, like while he was in the toilet or something. But yeah, that example just came to mind because obviously he,
was a creep. Creepy dude.
Kind of good though that we have though. Speaking of all those, it's good that we have criminal profiling now because well, I was going to say for the most part, you never hear of anything like that now. Like a modern day prolific serial killer because they've got the means to sort of nip it in the bud.
Yeah, like
forensics
sort of
and DNA
signs
and criminal profiling.
For all the faults of like them tracking things on the internet, you can then see where maybe people's searches are taking them down a dark path or some curiosities that they're trying to like satisfy. So it maybe gives you a warning sign that, okay, maybe we should like either, lock them up pretty soon before they do something to someone else, or maybe steer them along on the right path, get them the help that they need before they do something.
There has been ones that have been caught on because they've been that stupid, saying, literally Googling things like good places to dispose of a body, and them being able to track it down how far they were to like somewhere being found.
I mean, let's be honest, you can see that search.
How do you know?
Good places to bury a body in my area. Oh, okay. Google Maps, exact location, and like there you go. They're gonna.
You ever see that picture? It was one that did the rounds on the internet. It was Google Earth, but it was a pier somewhere in the world. It's quite dark because it was like pier, and you zoom in, and if you look closely at the picture, you can literally see someone drilling effectively at like a big bin bag.
Aye.
And you're like,
I wonder if they called the police when they noticed that.
I know, doing a street view to zoom in.
Well, the problem is, you probably find whenever they made that, they probably didn't even notice it because it's probably all automated.
Yeah.
So probably because like people have spent a good bit of time finding weird stuff on Google Maps, like the satellite view and all this weird stuff in like the ocean and stuff like that.
You ever see that one? I seen it in a YouTube video, and I can't remember what the coordinates are, but apparently there's a thing in Google Earth. Now, fair enough. For all you know, Google could have put it in as like a wee Easter egg to fuck with people, but it was like these coordinates, and it was this random location. I can't remember if it was in Siberia or where, but it's like literally like this mine, and the more you're allowed to go down Street View and go down, and there's a random like what can only be described as like a war room. Like you would see like during the Cold War, they would have had the big tables with the spotlights and milling just charged all around and dimly lit like that in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, it's a bit weird.
What, like a route, like a bunker or something like that, or
just like a random like old abandoned area, and like this cave and like a mine, and lean down into this fountain going.
They probably weren't told to go down that. They were just like, oh, what's this here?
It's just, part of me, that's interesting because you're just like, even from the perspective of why, if say there is nothing in there and somehow Google had the technology to fuck about and construct a fake room and within that Street View, you're like, why?
Yeah, like again, that thing though, that truth is stranger than fiction. Probably find it's probably been an old Soviet war room that they had for secret meetings or something like that. Because
someone forgot to turn the light off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and then there's actually quite a lot of interesting things during the Cold War, but there's some that would just blow your mind in terms of like I probably mentioned this story before, but like it's maybe true that Americans dropped those. I told you that story, yeah.
But
Not even,
condoms, just like
yeah,
super large condoms,
yeah,
all along
and putting
Russia.
medium
Aye.
packaging over it to clearly affect the morale of the Soviets.
Make them feel like less of men.
Wow, big Yankee doodle dandy. Um, um,
I think there was all sorts of sort of
no,
weird tactics that they tried to throw, well, just during war times in general, really.
I know there was like even if you see some of the attempts that they had on Fidel Castro's life,
Oh, I like with like exploding cigars.
and
Yeah,
all.
just
Yeah,
like something from flipping like Bugs Bunny, really. Like
and it's like something out of Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote.
you
It's
wonder
just,
how much beer and whiskey they drank before they came up with that idea in the war room. Just like, does he smoke cigars? What about a big stick of dynamite instead?
and I was gonna say, yeah, and so he won't suspect a thing.
No,
No, um,
he doesn't know anything. He'll smoke anything.
I, you know what? It's on one hand, you're like, America is some amazing advances and amazing accomplishments over time, but then there's other things, and you're just like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
It was. I heard as well. Was it not someone propositioned Roosevelt during the Second World War? Like a guy was talking about like I don't know how I was planning to do this, but like the fight in the Pacific. I'm near convinced there was something about that they were trying to work out a way to like that some really weird plan, and I think it was something to do with like strapping bombs to bats or something bizarre. But there's a few things you hear about different like operations and projects that never saw the light of day.
Well, there was one that they actually did during the. Can't remember if it was the First or Second World War, but in the British government called Operation Mincemeat.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's where they basically got a dead body, made it look like a guy, and had like fake plans. This was preparation for the Normandy invasion, and basically had fake plans for like, the real that these are super secret plans that we're going to be attacking this other beachhead, and they went down to the details of like having fake love letters and stuff being stuffed into his pocket and like crinkling them, and like, what would he would like lint and all, like literally coming up with this guy's life. And yeah, it just got very in depth and very weird. Like I think they enjoyed themselves too much trying to like build this, create a caricature or a fake person, really. But it worked, you know what I mean? And apparently I had to put him in a submarine. So I had to like freeze the guy and put him in a sub. But the people in the sub, apart from one or two, weren't allowed to know what was in the thing because it was obviously top secret. So they then somehow had to manage to like release this in the water so that there was a good chance that he would get picked up by the Germans, I think, at the time. Like, again, you wonder how they came up with these ideas and got funding to flip and do this crazy nonsense. But
was that effectively? Were they using that as a way to like effectively give the Germans false intel?
yeah, it was so like they would dedicate all the resources to the wrong beachhead so that Normandy they actually had a chance to.
That was a great idea, actually.
Yeah, the old bait and switch.
I actually always heard mention of it, but I never knew what it was about. As in Operation Mincemeat.
There's a podcast again. I would watch them for like Warhammer 40k lore, that they started doing, like these sort of mysteries and stuff like that. So again, I'll put the link of it in the description here. I'll send it over to you. They do like a full hour breakdown of all the crazy nonsense. Like the guy who's doing this, they come up with him having like a fake girlfriend who is one of the ones in the office, and so for some reason, to make it authentic, him, who was married at the time, started going on dates with the one who was meant to be the fake girlfriend. So I think he was just taking advantage a wee bit of the opportunity. But yeah, very, very bizarre story, which That was pretty interesting.
Um, is that the Australian guys or is that someone else?
Hmm?
Am I thinking of someone else?
Oh, it's no guy called Bricky.
Nah, that's a new
Nah,
one to me then.
aye.
Yeah.
But like it's like for their 40K stuff, it's Adeptus Ridiculous, and then this one's called Detective Ridiculous. So like the thing I just watched, listened to one today or yesterday on the escape from Alcatraz.
Mm,
So they go into the breakdown of the folks who allegedly escaped Alcatraz.
that were never found.
Yeah, were never found.
There's all different theories about.
Oh, why?
Thinking that like the burn man of Alcatraz and about that, and it's saying that the distance that you'd have to go from Alcatraz to get over to San Francisco, wasn't it? That they're saying to get across that would be perilous, and even if you tried to swim it, you'd be dead.
And I think apparently, like for their uniforms, was like denim, all denim clothes. Let's be honest, I can barely swim wearing normal clothes. Never mind like heavy soaked denim in freezing cold weather.
Yeah.
So, like stuff that.
If they were fair enough, you know what? If they did get away and they went on to lead a second life and never got found, I think they earned it.
Yeah, and they clearly didn't commit any crimes because otherwise they would have been caught. So like,
I know it makes you wonder actually the ones that were in, the ones that did escape, what they were in for.
From what again, I know a wee bit since I listened to that, but I think it was like armed robbery and stuff. So it wasn't like they were murderers or like doing like creeps.
They
They
were
were good, honest crime.
you get what is that? What's that term in honest?
Honest criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I can't think of Alcatraz without thinking of the film The Rock.
Oh, I know, that's the thing. It's straight in my head. Just like
Sean Connery was great in that.
Have you heard? I think I've said to you before about the film theory of Sean Connery and The Rock being like James Bond, who got caught, and so they put him in prison.
To be fair,
it kind of lines up.
Yeah, well, considering how well trained and everything he is, and Sean Connery. Like I would. Well, I'm torn because, like, Sean Connery was one of the classiest balls, if not the best. But Daniel Craig did a really good job.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him.
And there was some of the James Bonds that he did were brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, there was a few, like, I would say probably Casino Royale and Skyfall were two best. I actually think alternating between what he did. 5? They did Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre,
and then Die.
And I think it was every other one was really good.
Quantum of Solace fell a bit flat. Spectre, I think, was decent, but it still always gets forgotten.
It's not,
you know what I mean?
Even with Christoph Waltz in it, it wasn't quite as memorable. And Christoph Waltz is an amazing actor.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Although he looks like a German Rob Brydon.
Yeah.
There's actually a guy who worked with me in Scurf, and he looked like both of them. He looked like Rob Brydon and Christoph Waltz.
Looks like the love child.
The first time I seen Inglourious Bastards, have you seen it?
No, I've seen clips of it, but yeah, like I know it's a classic.
Well, there's an opening scene, not to spoil too much, but effectively where there's obviously people in hiding from the Nazis, and it's anyway, it's like a house out in the middle of nowhere, and the Nazis come up. Effectively, I'm guessing they're looking for anyone hiding Jews, and he's like
yes,
and he comes in. And I remember going to see it in the cinema, and whenever he walked in, I was like beside Scriff going, "Holy shit, it's Michael!" Yeah, I think he's won a few Oscars. I think he won. I feel like he's won 1 or 2 Oscars, but he's one of those actors I feel like they need to get more work. I mean, that was the first. Quentin Tarantino was the first person I seen hiring him for things.
See, that's the thing. Like, he is one of those actors that you never. It's not that he's not recognizable, but I think he just does such a good job in that movie that you don't see him as an actor, you see him as the character.
Yeah.
And I think there's some of the best actors in the business really suffer from that, and that you think who's your best actors? You're not thinking them because you don't think of their name, you just think that character was amazing in that movie.
It is. There's there's certain actors that once they play a part, it's hard to differentiate them
Yeah.
from that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to actually think. Whereas, like I know there was a guy I work with was cracking up. He's saying that he can't stand Ryan Reynolds because he thinks Ryan Reynolds just plays the same part all the time.
Aye.
He's like Deadpool. He's just playing himself. I'm like, true. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would say fair enough. As long as if he just picks up those roles, fair dues. It's whenever you have an actor or actress who picks up a role that should not be like that sort of comedic, sort of slapstick thing, but they play it as that.
Have you noticed that though? That see, for the last good while, see since probably the Avengers, the very first Avengers did so well. See that in terms of like that sense of humor and
Oh yeah,
the character dialogue became effectively milked dry by
Oh,
other studios trying to emulate it. Like
it's so saturated at this
I
point.
know, like the whole like self-deprecating, meta, self-aware.
Yeah.
You know everything. You know, no 30 seconds is complete without like a quick
Oh no,
jab.
no, and you can't have a normal scene or even a serious scene. Heaven forbid you have a serious scene.
Yeah.
And like, but I've even found with there seems to be a bit of a rhythm in Hollywood where a few actors seem to get
All the
all the
roles,
roles.
and it seems to be The Rock and um Ryan Reynolds were getting a load of parts.
And my
Um,
man Pedro Pascal,
yeah,
he was getting roles and everything.
yeah.
And actually, I can't remember her name, and I feel bad. The sweet young woman who was played Ellie in The Last of Us,
Um,
like, and she played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones. I think that was sort of her breakout.
Bella Ramsey. Yeah, I still haven't actually got seen Last of Us.
I haven't seen it either.
And you know what, I want to because I want to see how they do this story justice because I do still believe that like Last of Us was one of the best game stories I've ever
Oh, I
seen.
mean, I think that was, I know it was the reason why I wanted to get a PlayStation. Like, and it was for me. I've been an Xbox fanboy since I got my first Xbox. That was nearly, probably would be about 20 odd years now. But it was whenever I felt raging that I missed The Last of Us, because it was PlayStation 3, I think. But then whenever the announcement of 2 was coming up, I was like, flip. I'm working full time now. I do have the money. I have to buy a PlayStation.
Yeah,
I have to play the first one here.
it is. It's like there's so many points in the story that are really memorable.
It's proper storytelling.
Yeah, and even the way they ended the story, you're sort of it's conflicting.
Yeah.
I wanted, it's like I never got. Well, here's the funny thing, right? So I'll give a brief rundown for people who are watching. So we won a PlayStation 5 whenever they were like gold dust. So effectively, Maggie was on those like raffle pages on Facebook whenever no one could go out, and she went into this raffle, and it was like a cash prize of something like £400 or £450 or something like that, or you could get like a Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5. Oh, it had a Series X, and she won it, so effectively got a PlayStation 5 for £20. Nice. Now, here's the thing: I sold a PlayStation today.
Oh,
I left it in the CX.
Oh.
Long story. Whenever I was busy recording that music stuff, I got a random text one day, and it said it was from Sony saying, "We believe your account has been accessed. If you have not been, if you feel this wasn't you, click this hyperlink." And anyone who's in IT will tell you,
don't do it.
Yeah, don't do that. That's like going to see a woman of the night and going, "I don't need condoms." That's my metaphor. I'm sticking to it.
Well, I was gonna say, like, why do you have an Adam's apple? That's a bit weird.
Yeah. Why is your voice deeper than mine? And why have we got matching pairs? Anyway, yeah. So getting that, and then thinking it's a scam. It's okay, because I hadn't been on the PlayStation. Was too busy. Hadn't been on it. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, Phil knows all this story. But getting another message saying your reset password code is blah 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 blah. Well, but I seen it.
Carry on. I'll be back in a second.
But getting it at the same time as another email saying someone has accessed your account. Is this you? And then starting to wonder. And then I then get text messages from Nationwide saying about transactions, which I had nothing to do with. So it turns out that some little bollocks from another part of the world had got access to my account. And speaking to Phil, he thinks it might have been a blunt force attack with the two-step authentication, and it makes sense because the fact I got a reset code sent to me. So,
and you were saying it was a 4-digit code of just numbers.
Yeah, so it's very easy to
which is like 10,000 various combinations, and it doesn't take much to like run 10,000 variations through code. At least within like the 30 seconds deadline that they have, do that wee buns, especially if they're using like a downloadable script.
Yeah.
So there's a term for that in like cybersecurity, a script kiddie. So somebody downloads prepackaged hacking software and just uses it.
I didn't know it was called that. There you go. I've learned something new today. Yeah. But yeah, so in effect, this person got in. My card details were stored on it, and based on their purchase history, I know for a fact that their voice hadn't broke yet. Minecraft and Call of Duty, and then they attempted to also buy Spider-Man, but it was at that point that Nationwide systems flagged because one purchase was shown as Iran and one was shown as Seattle. So clearly a VPN. So at that point, that's when they contacted me to say, "Was this you?" So I said no. They said that's okay. We'll raise a fraud claim, blah, 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 dead on. We'll send you a new card, we'll cancel that one, we'll blacklist that device from using those card details. So they submitted the fraud claim to Sony, and the way that Sony deals with the fraud claims was enough to put the final nail in the coffin for me, because every Sony product I've ever owned has been cursed. I fucking loved the PlayStation 1. It was like playing whenever it came out for me, to go from 2D graphics on the SNES and Mega Drive, which were, you didn't really question what was amazing graphics.
So you just use your imagination.
And then next minute you're playing games that are 3D, and even though like looking back now, they're like, oh, how vulgar, but looking back, some amazing memories from that era. But again, I got a PlayStation, and I think a solid year after I had it, it just stopped reading this. But the thing that was weird was it wouldn't play any other games. So like if my mate Stephen came around with games, or if I rented games, it just wouldn't pick up the disc.
Right.
But if I put in games I owned, if for some reason could read them.
See that
I never understood that.
I remember this is a history lesson and a half. Whenever you could get chipped chipped consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So story time for those who are maybe not millennials, I suppose.
And like, more morally.
Yeah, that's true as well. Everyone heard about though.
Yeah.
Back in the day, whenever you had physical discs, and you're talking like proper like PlayStation 1 days, you could have your console chipped, and it was basically a way for you to play like pirated games. So people would like basically copy a legit thing of Spyro or Crash Bandicoot and burn it onto like a CD, and then if you had your PlayStation chipped, you could play these games. So cardboard sales, you saw them all the time.
Buy like 3 games for £5.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you had to pay 40 quid for one game. Plus, speaking of that era as well, I also got to play games imported because of that. So I got to play things like, I got to play Metal Gear Solid 1 about 4 months before it came out. So I'd finished the game. I loved it. Played it for multiple times. But by the time it came out, whenever people asked me what it was like, I was like, it was suddenly, it felt like a lifetime ago. Even though, like, even I could think back, and there's so many parts in that game that were incredible. But yeah, so that PlayStation 1, I kicked the bucket after a year, got a new one, got a chip. It lasted a bit longer, but ultimately, again, it died sort of at a good time whenever the Dreamcast came out. Then the PlayStation 2 came out, got it. Now, after about a year to year and a half of it, it it also became a bollocks. It kept on saying this read error. So you had to keep on ejecting, putting it back in, and after maybe sometimes I'm like maybe 10 to 20 times ejecting it and putting it back in, it eventually start reading it. It was like the laser became a lazy eye.
Had to line it up just right, give it a bit of a shake.
So that was that. The PlayStation 3, I can't remember what went wrong with it, but I think it actually I didn't play it as much.
Mm.
I got a Sony Bravia TV. After about a year, maybe about a year and a half to 2 years of it, it would just intermittently just go on standby for no apparent reason.
Just time to nap.
You could be watching like a real dramatic scene, you know, jury, members of the jury, how do you plead? We find the defendant. And you're like trying to turn it back on, and next minute this pivotal plot point is being fucked. And I know, and you're like, so. And then the PlayStation 4, it got the blue screen of death.
Yeah.
Like, again, I think maybe I didn't really play it all that much, and I would say I maybe had it maybe only had 1 to 2 years. PlayStation 5, I'll give it, the hardware didn't fail me, but Sony failed me.
Yep, it was the system.
Because the fact that they come back with a fraud claim, and they say, well, the card that was used to purchase the games from your account was your name and your address and your card.
It's almost as if it was fraud.
Yeah, because it's a well-known fact that people that commit fraud, access accounts, put the wrong financial details on and purchase things with it.
They put their credit card on and then pay with their credit card. That's how it works.
I know, the Robin Hoods. But the fact as well then that they also on the fraud form came back saying the confirm button was clicked. Yes, because it is the ultimate defense against those who are committing fraud. Oh, do it. Oh, fuck, I can't confirm this. No. So based on that, it's just at this point, I'm just like, you know what? Pardon my French, but fuck you, Sony.
Well, I'm sorry, but the fact that they're using flipping, I know I'm circling back to this point, but it still blows my mind. The fact that they're using like four digits, 0 to 9, like, because you're going through there, because like I remember I nearly got hacked, and the only reason I know is because same day I got the texts.
Yeah,
but it was like a couple hundred of them.
I'll take it back. It was a 6-digit code.
Oh, 6-digit code. So you're talking about 1 million combinations. A little bit, like a bit longer still, but you think it's still not too long for them if that's all it needs to do, really. Like, I mean, you know how quick, because you've done like a bit of testing and stuff like that, so you know how quick code can.
Yeah. You just leave it run. It's just so yeah, it kind of pains me because to go off on that rant is I wanted to play through Last of Us 2 because the amount of times and how divisive I hear about the story.
Yeah.
And is it?
Yeah, it kind of is. I think it is because I feel it retcons some things that should not be retconned from the first. Like, I don't want to really spoil it for you, but
I feel like I should probably just watch a YouTube video.
Yeah, I think it might do you good. Yeah, like I think does some terrible things early on, and then spends the next 20 plus hours trying to justify it, and just like no.
So it didn't work for you then, no?
No, and again, I tried my best to give the benefit of the doubt. I think they could have done. There's the pieces of a good story there. I just think they needed to structure it a little bit better, and also be a bit less in your face about what they were trying to do. Like, if they were a little bit more nuanced with it, I think they could have had a really great story. But I just think they were a little bit too in your face and a little bit too clunky, might be a way to put it.
Yeah. No, to be honest, I have a rough idea of one thing that happens. So I'll not say in case, spoilers and all that. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to play that, and then there was the God of War Ragnarok came out because
Yep.
the one before it was great. Something else. There's a lot of people going on about the new Spider-Man coming out, but I'm sure it'll be okay.
Oh, like,
I'm sure it'll be good. But
see, I know folks that love it, but I'm kind of burnt out with the adventure genre of games.
Was it just too much?
I think if I've just played them too much in the past, like, and I know probably said this before on a few episodes, but it's just like that sort of like Far Cry and Lara Croft sort of setup. I've just burnt myself out on them. I don't know. Spider-Man may not be that, but I think that sort of traveling around the open world and doing missions, I think I've kind of burnt myself out on it. The only exception, which would be Ghosts of Tsushima,
That was good.
and maybe it's just because I'm a big Japan nerd, but
It was. You know what? It was.
I think it was just beautiful as well.
Yeah, it was. It was. It's probably like one of the few games I can remember playing and going, taking a load of like. It would have like a photo editor mode
Yes.
and that, and you were like, that looks really.
Yeah.
Like that's scenic.
The fact at the start of the game they have the setting that you can have it like black and white and crackly like old
to make it like a Akira Kurosawa film.
And it's just like that to me just showed how much thought they put into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just every time you paused it, it was just stunning. Like,
did you hear? Well, again, whether or not it comes to pass, there was talks. I heard that that the director of John Wick was actually wanting to do an adaptation of it.
Ooh,
that'd
be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be a good fit for it, considering
it's a very good. Like, I'm sorry, but it is like a movie. Like, and again, it was never. I think I have said this before on the podcast, but it stung a lot even more for me the fact that Last of Us 2 won Game of the Year over Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, because you weren't a fan of one, but
yeah, and it was just like the only big thing that really Last of Us 2 had, I would say, would be like the graphical side of things.
Of what I played,
it was graphically intent, like, you know, technically really impressive, but the writing wasn't as tight as it could have been. Gameplay was kind of samey from the first game.
There's one thing I will say, right? And I don't know if you'll agree, and some people might say this is controversial, but I do feel like there's quite a lot of Sony's best games are more amazing, like interactive films.
Yes, like you know what I mean? You think about Uncharted, and I suppose The Last of Us. Yes, there's more action in Uncharted, but you can see the sort of DNA of Uncharted in The Last of Us. But the driving force is the characters. The driving force is the writing and the adventure that they go on.
Like, I would say, like, I played through one of the Uncharted's, and I was wanting to play for all of those, but like, I don't know if they improved any, but from when I played the second one, I sort of felt like the mechanics for the combat, they weren't really that satisfying. They weren't the greatest.
I sort of felt like you were trying to get to the next cutscene but not in a bad way. You just wanted to see what happened next.
And don't get me wrong, there were some really cool set pieces where, like, you know, maybe like running through somewhere and it's all like a crumbling temple or some shit. But Tomb Raider also did a good job of that. But I don't know. I just I don't know. There's some games, like when you look at them from a gameplay perspective of what a game is meant to be, you're like, this isn't really doing anything new, and it's maybe not as satisfying as what it should be. Yeah. It's like that game I was saying about Remnant 2. Its combat's kind of like part of the part of the game because the combat is so intense and it's, you know, it just grabs you by the neck whenever you're in the middle of like a boss fight or something like that. And that's what you want, that you know, like when you're playing something that literally you can't take your focus off it.
Yeah, well, you think about something like the Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and Dark Souls, like all of those games, let's be honest, unless you're watching videos and going through all the documentation, no one has a clue what the story is.
Yeah, the lore, to piece that together, because there's a lot of circumstantial NPCs in that.
Yeah.
that can maybe make other things make sense.
And like you've got people who do data mining and find all these lost bits of code for missing bosses and stuff just to try and piece the story together. But at the end of the day, it's the gameplay, which is really what it's a challenge. And again, things are polished and fine tuned. Yeah, there's always going to be game breaking, like overpowered builds and stuff, but that's just the nature of the beast.
But at its heart, it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
It's a game that gets, whereas like as bad as it sounds, like I think, and I've seen a few people like YouTube commenter, creators talking about that about like they don't appreciate like playing a Sony game where it's like feels like every 15 minutes another cutscene, and yeah, I don't know, you do sort of feel like, for me, there's some single player games that when it finishes, the story was great and all, but you don't know if you would actually like play through it again.
Yeah.
Because, whereas like I play through like some of the original Resident Evils multiple times and all that, and Metal Gear Solid and stuff, it had sections and boss fights that you were just like, oh, this part's class.
Yeah. I think to playing through a game once, the story drives it, but to make you go back and play it again, it has to be the gameplay. Like that's why people are constantly rerunning Dark Souls. That's why like I was comfortable playing Ghost of Tsushima again. That's why people are replaying Skyrim. Let's be honest, no one cares about Skyrim's flipping story. Like people just enjoy the gameplay. They enjoy the world, but the world isn't the story.
In fact, there's probably some people get more of the side quest, to be honest.
Yeah, and just because on the drive over, we were talking about Cyberpunk, and I think that's kind of a challenge with Cyberpunk.
Side quests were better than the main story, I thought.
And I feel that for the movies and stuff like that, just the genre in general, they tend to over prioritize the world over the story. Because you were making the point of Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, you don't you're in the world, but the world isn't like in your face. It's just it's as mundane as everything that we have.
The only exposition that Blade Runner has, it has like that wee like introduction prologue thing telling you what replicants are and what year it's set, and that's it really.
Yeah.
Like no, it doesn't blatantly, keep on reminding you, oh, it's constantly raining, it's constantly nighttime, because effectively this is meant to be like the result of a nuclear winter.
Yeah.
And
like I think that the Cyberpunk anime, it is a little bit more in your face, but I think it's more just the stylization of it.
Aye.
Because again, everything is stylized in that, so of course the world has to be stylized. So I think that sort of fits the vibe of the animated series. But no, I think with the Cyberpunk genre in general, people like, oh, look at this cool world we made. We need to show you this cool world we made.
There's substance. No, sorry, there's loads of style, but it's not always substance. It's like there's one that I played recently, that game, The Ascent.
Yes.
It's a cool, like if you like like a top down what do you call the term? Is it isometric? Is the one where you can aim in any direction? Or am I thinking of another term?
Isometric is like Doom, where it's 2D but in a 3D space. So
no, it's a different term I'm thinking of them. So this is like top down, like Diablo,
like roguelike.
No, it's like an actual RPG.
Okay.
So it's like a top down RPG. Well, but the graphic quality, like it is I think it's on Unreal Engine 4 or 5. It was like for a top down game with what you can see in the physics and all that and the lighting, it is a nice looking game. Yeah. But the whole thing's set in like a cyberpunk type thing. But for the most part, like the main story, I don't know. Like I finished it and I don't know, sort of came away not really remembering much of the story, and it felt like it sort of needed to just justify the missions rather than it's like, well, you met this person, you get to do this, you meet this person, and so on and so on.
I sort of feel that we only really get story-driven games when things started getting like 3D. Because you think like Mario when
the princess isn't in this castle, and by the third castle, Mario should be going, fuck this.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, Whereas you know, Sonic, there's a weird mad
Yeah.
scientist floating around in a mechanical egg that's trapping cute animals inside robots. Um,
Uh,
and Sonic, for some reason, gets protective power from rings and something to do with Chaos Emeralds. Yeah.
like whilst you have, and even then, let's be honest, one with the 3D ones, it would have been like for me to go to Spyro because that's what I just played that nonstop as a kid. Even then, the story was fairly basic. You know, you had the world of dragons, and you had a goblin guy who was just like, you know what, I'm gonna turn these all to crystal statues, and Spyro had to go save them. But it's sort of the start of the story,
Yeah,
and
it
it
gives you
seems
the
to
foundation.
develop.
Yeah, if it gives you the foundation for the mechanics,
Yeah.
I'd much rather have that. Actually, it was something I played recently, and it was a wee gem as far as the Xbox goes,
Ah,
and not that many people have talked about it. Was that Hi-Fi Rush?
okay.
Never heard of it.
Well,
It was done. It was actually it was published by the Bethesda, but it was a Japanese team. I can't remember the name of the developer, but like I think they were the head creative director was actually involved in that Evil Within. I think he was
yes.
involved in both of those. But the game was like a rhythm based action game. So imagine like Devil May Cry, but cell shaded, and you effectively got bonuses from being in time with the music. So
Right.
it was a
Okay.
constant like metronome,
Ah,
and you could bring in like teammates to help you do. So it fleshed it out. It was initially just robots came in and you attacked them. Then you get companions, that like have their abilities. Like ones can break through force fields, ones can break through armor, and one can like can like stun enemies and
yeah.
stuff like that. And it was sort of different because it had it was a fairly light-hearted story. It was like the whole thing looked like an anime, you could
Right.
say.
Yes.
But it was more cell shaded.
Ah,
But it was like, I don't know, it was just enjoyable, and it kept it fresh the whole way through. The way you get some games where the first half an hour you're going, mechanics here are good, and that's it. There's
yes.
nothing else.
Yeah. It doesn't
Um,
add to it or
I,
add something in to like mix things up or
I
make you think differently.
so it was. I'll be honest, like I'd recommend it to people if you like things like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry.
Yes. Yeah.
It's you could spend a lot worse time. You could be going to work instead.
Who wants to do that?
No. So that was a good wee find. That was weird because Microsoft did that. It was like a games release find. I think that was in May or something like that, and they were just saying, "Here's upcoming footage of our game," and they just said, "Oh, by the way, this is out now."
uh,
And looking at the clips, I was going, "No, actually, it looks all right." And sure enough, I was, I was worried it was going to be another case of like Microsoft announces a game and then it comes out and you're like, bit
it's been
underwhelmed.
off. Yeah.
Like I heard people complain about that Redfall,
Oh.
and there was
Yeah.
there was part of me at the time whenever it got shown off, I was like, don't know what to make of this. Whether or not it'll be because again, you could there's thousands of first person shooter games out there, but there's some just get the animation and the sound right. That
Yeah. It's yeah.
whenever you like hit some like Doom,
It just feels like
you could
right.
that game's nearly 3 decades old now, and
Aye.
you can have like still running up the imp of a double barrel shotgun and going it, even though it doesn't look quite as sharp or polished as what
Still
finds me, it's
satisfying.
still like, oh, that's so good.
Just the little happy part of your brain just lights up.
But there was parts of watching some of the gameplay footage for Redfall at the time. I was like going, and but then there was footage before it came out, and I was starting to get more interest in it. And then whenever it came out and seeing how badly it got received, I was going, like I know Steve, he's the way he said in the chat, he'd played it and he said it's nowhere near as bad as what people make it out. But at the same time, it was. I think he was just playing it because something to do.
Just
Whereas
pass the time, more casual, sort of chilling out.
rather than the effectively hand crack. As in, like you just
Ah,
can't
yes.
put the controller down.
You're deeply engaged
You're
with
going,
it.
oh
Yeah.
man, I can't go to work. But I think it's more because of the fact it was Arcane. Arcane's a very good studio because they did Dishonored and all that, and um, they did that Deathloop that I've been wanting to
Yeah,
get playing.
I
I know some people they were like, "There's no way this game's a 10." Um, but I'll give it a try myself.
I sort of struggled with the feel of like the Dishonored games.
Did you?
Yeah, which might be controversial to folks. Um, I still think great game, great story, all that, but I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, it's just something didn't click. Yeah.
And I think Deathloop, I think had the same because I downloaded it because it was on for free on Xbox, so I downloaded it, and it has the same sort of mechanical feel.
So that's probably
So
putting you off. Yeah.
it's not for me, but I think if you enjoy Dishonored, it'll be a cracking game. Like,
I've heard it's one of those games you keep on playing because you have to learn effectively. Obviously, you run out of time, you're repeating the same day over and
yeah,
over. So you get to the point that you streamline it and you're able to effectively because you have to what is it assassinate 8 people within it like a specific time frame. And part of me is like, I like the concept of that, but again, um, it's whatever. There's some people don't like repeating the same thing. It's
yeah,
like people, if you like roguelites, I think it
yeah.
takes you to have like a personality where you're happy enough repeating the thing over and
Yeah,
over again.
trial and error, just like over time, just iterating to actually improve something. Like just you saying about like over a period of time, I struggle to be honest. If you have to do things within a certain time frame, like the first
Well, like Dead Rising,
Dead Rising, like
that's like an
the
example.
fact that you had, that's why I didn't buy it because I knew that you were only given like however many hours to complete the game, and for me, like that just racks up the anxiety to where I want to explore every inch of the place, but am I wasting my time? Am I going to be able to finish the game in time? You know?
I'm near convinced. Now, you would probably need to check my achievements, and that was a long time ago. But that was the same for me. At first, I started playing that, and I'm going, how am I going to do everything in this? And I think I played for it about 5 or 6 times, which because which I sort of like when a game comes out to me, like if I would maybe play it once, maybe at a push twice if it's not too long, but to go that many times, I was like, but it was more as well because I think there was an achievement for you to get all 50 survivors in one run.
Oh, flip right.
So because I played them like that many times, there was people only showed up on certain days at certain times.
Oh, so you had to like
So it
note
got to the
down.
point multiple times I memorized where they were going to be. So I picked up a route where I was maybe able to get one that I knew was there, and on the way back to the safe house,
Yes.
pick up the other ones that I knew were at that time. But the hard part that came with it was the AI at times was terrible. So like you run ahead, next minute there was like no zombie, next minute they're like stuck on a fucking hedge or something, and they're getting attacked, and you're going oh, and having to go back and knock off 200
Yeah.
zombies to get them safely back to the place. But yeah, I mean, for some reason Maggie enjoys watching me playing games where you're killing zombies. I don't know why, even though like
See, for me, it's always been one of the most satisfying times that I've played a game, just like chill out, relax, almost meditation, has been like Nazi zombies on like Black Ops. Like
well,
they've been able to build a train of zombies, turn around, and go da 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 da
did
da.
you never get playing Sniper Elite, the zombie
No,
one?
no,
Undead Army.
no. Is it good?
It's very good. You should give that a whirl.
100%.
It's. I mean, have you ever played Sniper Elite at all?
Played a little bit. I think I played the demo once or twice.
Well, I'm sure you did the whole X-ray camera thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. Throw that in the mix of like shooting a zombie for the eyeball from 400 meters. Yeah, it's pretty satisfying. But it has like a built-in swarm mode and all for that. Where you're fighting the waves, and it gets more ridiculous as it goes on. The things that you're going up against. But we played it, a few of us in co-op, and it was really intense. It was good. If you like that, you would probably live like Killing Floor then.
See, I did buy Killing Floor. The problem is though, because it's quite a co-op sort of game.
That was
Yeah.
my issue as well. I think if I had more people, it's like the amount of games that I'll go that I know I can get people to play, and then there's other ones that to get people to play,
You need to sort of
I
like
have to
butter them up.
like effectively bleed a stone.
Have to pitch it to them. You know, it's a hard sell.
Like I got people to play totally different from these. Have you ever heard of that game Evil?
Oh, was that like the horror sort of one? Is it?
No,
I'm
this
thinking.
is this is a social deception game like Among Us.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
the best way you could sum it up is it's like Among Us, but the art style and the setup's kind of like Fable, and I think
Mm,
I've heard people say it's like there was a game called Town of Salem, I think it was called,
right.
with Mikey's brothers telling me about.
Hmm.
But it was like this whole thing of you're in a town and you pick a role and there's a murderer in the midst, and they obviously the gist is there's a killer in among your midst, and they're trying to kill off other players and be the last one left by the end. So this is a similar setup. It's like a wee like fantasy village type thing.
Aye.
So you could be, you know, your job. You could be like a guard. You could be like a trapper. You could be like the mayor and stuff like that. And there's obviously potentially, depending on how many players you've got in the server, there can be, you know, I think it can go up to 2 or 3 killers. But you know, what do you call it? You can be killed during the night. So you could be in your room and
Yep.
someone could break into your house and kill you. And then when you die, you can effectively do like quests in the spirit world. But when you're alive, that's sort of how it keeps things interesting. Is day in day out, you can go and pick up quests like you would. It's very like
Aye.
Warcraft, even
Aye.
like the whole like you know exclamation mark, and you go and gather things. So, but then you know you could be like out in the middle of nowhere, like collecting mushrooms for a quest, and a killer goes by and just shanks you and runs off, and you can't communicate with the
You
other
can't
players
fight. You
because you're
can't fight
dead.
on it. Yeah.
Um, but it's comical because then obviously you know somebody like rings the town bell to say that they think that it's someone, and depending on how that goes, you know you get put in effectively a cage, and people then it'll bring up if it comes to a vote, you know, guilty or not guilty.
Mm.
So people stand on what side they think it is, and if you're guilty, you get torched. But then obviously then like depending on how many players there is, once the last killer is killed at that point, um, the game will end, so people know if they've got it. Whereas if someone burns and everything goes on, people go, "We didn't get them," or there's still ones out there. Um, so it depends whether or not those social deception games. I think it takes you to either a have a big group of friends that you could play with, which to me I think would make it great crack,
Yep.
or b be happy enough to talk to a bunch of randomers.
Yes.
And sometimes I can be good and bad because of again not to generalize because I tend to find when we were playing it, the most polite people actually out of them were the English.
Mm.
I was very you know oh yes I can help you with that, and you know could be maybe I don't know it could be just the setting maybe appeals to more the geeky fraternity and they're more less abrasive and all that. But whenever we like were playing games and you had an Americans in, you tend to find, and I'm not generalizing, I'm not saying all Americans, I'm just saying these ones.
The ones that you experience.
But like the moment like a girl or something would talk, it was you were just like
The
see
depravity.
you're the reason the films like Barbie are made. You're like, oh, shut up, bitch, or something. You're like, God, fuck me.
Yeah, please just go and touch grass.
But again, he's just these are the people who just perpetuate fucking small brains.
Yeah, it's that sort of knuckle dragger, toxic masculinity sort of nonsense.
Ooh, my name's Chad. I like Monster. Yeah. So it was just based on that. I was just going, yeah, okay. And like me and Carver always have to believe it. Going, is there people out there actually like that? But then turns out there is.
Yeah. Problem is, they're probably not. You probably don't experience them in the real world because they're
True.
not in the real world 9 times out of 10.
Because because effectively, if someone acted like that in the real world, you get catch if you get treated with equal rights and lefts. But he's just going. Like I actually speaking of weird conversations with people online. I remember the first time playing on the 360, playing Perfect Dark Zero.
Oh yes, yeah.
You remember that?
Mm.
And talking to some random American kid. I would have been the time I might have been about 21 or something. This guy must have been probably about 4 or 5 years younger. But I was like, "Where?" Asking me where it's from. I'm like, Northern Ireland, and he just goes, "Have you been shot?" He's just like, I think I
I mean,
replied.
it's
I
not
replied.
good enough.
I think I replied something along the lines of, "I've thrown a few grenades and everything."
Just pump up the stereotype.
I don't know. You're like, what do you think it's fucking Kosovo over here or
Aye.
something? So yeah, I don't know. It's funny just in terms of cultural thing. You notice the difference. The Scottish are interesting as well because I don't know, they just their banter's completely
Yep.
on another level.
Yeah, they're sort of like, well, we would share the same sense of humor, but they sort of dial it to 11 at times, I
They
find.
they tend to be that. See, as long as you know, sort of, I like if you know, like in terms of the crack and the rapport
Yep.
of like, oh, you fucking batty and stuff like that. If you take it as just what it is and you you give it good as you get,
Yes.
you'd be dead on.
Oh, aye.
The moment that they think that you're like being uptight,
Aye. They'll go for the throat. And
same as
rightly
over
so.
here.
Yeah, rightly so. Like, again, because if anything, if you were to crack a joke and someone like had a go at you in response, the only other choice you have is just to go even harder with them. Because if anything, otherwise you just have to be like upset at it because they're having a go at you for trying to be nice.
I've had the odd occasion though where like someone does someone like that, and you maybe like throw one back because you've only got, in my eyes, you've only got 3 seconds.
Oh,
If you
there's a
don't
thin window.
if you don't retort within 3 seconds, you may as well just go fair play.
Yep.
Um, but if you bounce something back within the 3 seconds, then you've kept the ball in motion.
Yep.
But there's been a few times that someone said something, and I threw something back, and I went, "What's that too harsh?" Because they're sort of
I was like,
it just killed it back and forth, and just like
they started it. It's fine.
I got well. They started it, and I put it to bed. There's there's no, I would say probably the most severe jokes and the most harsh jokes I don't even think are suitable for this, so I'm not even going to go there.
Not safe for podcast.
It's There's one in particular I'll tell you later, and like everyone I've told it to go whoa, and
I'll put a wee caption post credits just to say like out of 10 how bad it was. There'll probably be like an 11, but yeah, we'll see.
well, I find it quite bad. So it's more the context that goes with it.
Okay.
It's well,
yeah, we'll get.
But anyway, how's your week been?
Yeah, been busy working on the side project. The sort of driving force for me to get done in a short space of time that we've talked about isn't as pressing as I thought it was going to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's pretty nice, and so the pressure's off now. I can actually like not burn myself out working on stuff.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I started playing around today with, do you know the AI DJ that Spotify have? You heard of this?
No.
Basically, they have like this like AI DJ which will like obviously be like a radio station and say like, here's 5 songs with whatever theme, and then play the 5 songs. So it's based on your selection. But I thought, oh, it's a pretty cool idea. But whenever you play it, it's basically just like the same idea as what they have like in your For You section. So it's just like metal, recently played, summer stuff. And the problem is, I always find that the songs they pick don't make sense in the slightest.
Yeah.
It's very hit and miss, I find, which is the whole reason why I built that playlist generator for myself, because the playlists they made just weren't up to snuff.
You know? I were you getting songs and you're like, I don't understand why this was recommended.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's even songs that I don't remember listening to, or I listened to ages ago, or I know a lot of folks like they find 1 or 2 songs that they are really into and just play them on repeat, but you don't want to listen to them again because you've burnt yourself out on them. But they just like, oh hey, you listen to this a lot, so there you go. Yeah, I think maybe it's just because I write code, but I can see where they've written the algorithm, I suppose.
And you understand its patterns.
Yeah, and it's just maybe, but then it's also like the AI generated voice. It's pretty decent now, don't get me wrong, but it's that classic American DJ voice.
I'm actually curious to check it out
Give it a
tomorrow
go,
night.
actually, yeah, because it's a bit of a novelty, but I think it could, if they put a bit of effort into it, it could be something really, really cool. Like I think you could do it where if you looked at someone's played songs and broke it up to like subgenre, because I know we've said before how many floppity jillion genres there are on Spotify, you could get really like niche, like micro playlists playing, and if you match that up to like the BPM, like an actual DJ will do, like in a club or something, like if you put a bit of music theory into what they did with the songs, I think it
Yeah,
could be something properly like
and
cracker.
unique.
Yeah.
Listen, makes you wonder then maybe like down the line if there's maybe room to grow there because considering how technology's come along, Carl was talking to me today as well about these whole stories about people. Now I don't know if they're. I was actually meaning to ask if they're like willingly doing it or if they're like unwittingly doing it about this whole like AI thought. You know, effectively now that we have like people that are cam models and OnlyFans and things like that.
Uh-huh.
The people are able to create AI content
Oh,
and apparently
jeepers.
generate quite a lot of content very quickly.
That doesn't surprise me in a way, because you can see like you have stuff like Midjourney where you could generate photorealistic content. So there's your OnlyFans stuff, I suppose, as dark a turn as this conversation is. But then you have deepfake technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
again, like it wouldn't take much really if you wanted to do that. And again, if it's like a chat thing, whether it's like private messaging and stuff, the what do they call that? Like a large language model, I think it is what they use for like chat GPT and stuff.
Yeah.
You can train that stuff yourself relatively easily. And even fake voices, like a few lines of Python and a few test things, like say, you know, maybe about a couple of minutes worth of a person's voice, and you can emulate it. Might be a bit monotone, but you can still fake someone's voice.
I should look at those. Like, well, on a side note, I like when you hear those AI covers. I don't know if anyone
Oh,
that's watched this has heard them, but some of them are getting uncanny now. That you would like you're hearing like somebody like taking Freddie Mercury and having Freddie Mercury sing. I heard one recently. It was AI of Freddie Mercury singing "Take on Me" by Aha. And for the most part, now it's fair enough. This one, as an example, wasn't perfect, but there's some of the parts that I expected it to be easier to see through
yes,
were
actually coming
harder.
through. Yeah.
Like holding notes and like vibrato. I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, that's actually pulling that off.
Have you seen the Eric Cartman "Bring Me to Life" from Evanescence?
I'm sure that would be good.
I mean, it's good, but it's also funny just because it's Eric Cartman. Yeah, but again, believable. Obviously, it's a cartoon character, so you know it's not real, but still, like,
Yeah, yeah. It's Trey Parker just randomly sitting singing a different song.
it's just it's a karaoke session someone recorded on him.
Yeah, I mean it's the way like people are saying, at this rate of going, you're starting to wonder if like the people that whenever they were saying we need to stop AI at this rate of going because it's gonna snowball and it's gonna change society as we know it, and people are like, oh god, you're being so dramatic. It's not Terminator, but there is starting to be application for it now. You're starting to see that do make you wonder if it is going to impact the world. Maybe not for positive, because like even if you look at the whole Hollywood thing, um, like you could tell for the most part, there's probably a lot of fear there because the fact now that they're talking about using AI to write scripts and the whole thing of like being able to take an actor's likeness and
yes,
like that to me, if they're able to do that in a convincing enough way, like if a normal person can do deepfakes on TikTok, that people can go,
yeah,
is that Keanu Reeves? Like what can a big studio that can take those resources rather than hiring an actor
mm-hmm.
that you can effectively, saves all that money and puts it into the technology.
There is the legal aspect because
it's about likenesses.
It's
and all
quite
that.
literally someone's likeness. So at that point, I think you would still need to pay them, but then it's also a thing of you're paying them for a license for their likeness, and then it's a question of how much do you need to modify that to not be them. Because I mean, for the like circling back to The Last of Us as an example, you have the character of Ellie, there was a big stink that was kicked up because
She looked like Ellen Page.
yeah, and which absolute spitting image, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
I'll,
like,
I'll be honest. Whenever I before I even played it, yeah, I was the same. I was
I
like
don't know how you could not see that. It almost just looked like they brought them in to like scan them, and okay, there's the character.
the funny thing was that time that Lindsay Lohan, no, yeah, it was Lindsay Lohan tried to sue Rockstar because she thought that blonde girl on the front of GTA 5
Uh,
was meant to be her. Going, I don't see it.
oh, God bless you. Love.
You're blonde and you've got blue eyes. Yeah, it's uncanny.
No, like with the AI stuff, like I think you do. There does need something to be done just so that you can recognize that it is AI. Like I've seen TikToks and stuff where it's you're flipping through and for my random feed you'll have like in podcast interviews with Elon Musk and all these folks. But you're flicking through and it's like Elon Musk talking about something. Oh, I haven't heard this one before. Blah blah blah. Sounds kind of like okay, yeah, just interesting. Then all of a sudden at the last like third, it just goes on like crazy, like talking absolute like nonsense, and you realize, oh, this was AI.
the
Like,
whole time.
and it's just like if they didn't literally make it talk absolute garbled nonsense at the end, I would have believed that that was Elon Musk saying this.
Yeah,
It's scary. There does need to be some like marker or notifier to
I
say
know.
that this is generated by AI.
I know. I think there needs to be.
Even like there's bound to be some sort of digital fingerprint you can apply to that stuff.
I
But people would argue, why are you tracking this stuff? Are you tracking what I'm doing with this technology? Like it's hard to get that balance of
the moral
regulation.
grey.
And, yeah.
It's like I'll be honest. Like in terms of me getting things done for this album,
Yeah.
AI has saved me
Oh
some
yeah.
money
100%.
because in terms of me creating artwork,
Yes.
now I know there's like some people have argued that there's some of those AI artwork generators are effectively the way they're taking it is that they're appropriating elements of other artists' work online, and but you know,
You can argue that that's art in general.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, that's true. If someone does
everything
a
is.
yeah, someone does a portrait of a woman, and
I mean, that's to be honest. How many abstract paintings were around before, like the likes of Picasso or the likes of all these like other again. I'm sure there's artists, people who's like that's not abstract. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the
actually,
day,
what was he cubism?
I think there was a term for what he did because it was still based on like human and just like in a abstract way.
Yeah,
But then you have like Jackson Pollock and all these other ones. So there's going to be taking inspiration or homage.
yeah.
You know,
It's now rather than anyone is truly original.
yeah,
Because it's nearly impossible, and the chances are, unfortunately, that we're in a kind of society now. I think where if you did something that literally did break the mold, people would go because it's so alien. Fair enough, you may appeal to a very very small demographic, but for the most part, people go,
yeah. I mean, it would
you know what I mean?
feel again, as you say, out of the box, and out of the box is often scary to people.
Because they're like, what is this?
Yeah, like, is this dangerous? Is this gonna like harm me? Like I've heard of folks like describing music as scary, and I find that genuinely weird. Like it can be weird, but to genuinely give you the feeling of fear, I find quite strange. Like it's a very sheltered sort of mentality and very protected ears.
I think if the song and the music is written to produce like a sense of unease, that's different. But
Yes.
but if someone like that, I'll give an example. Like the way obviously Card playing Conjuring Fate,
Yep.
and like for people who've never heard of them, it's heavy metal. But from the uninitiated, although I've ranted about music genres before, as I've said last time, heavy metal is fairly accessible.
Yeah.
It's like Iron Maiden and stuff. You can it's not like someone's sounds like they're being tortured. It's like literal. There's melodies and
Yeah.
there's your verse and your chorus and everything, and there's typical song structures. But the fact that um Scarf was talking to mate of ours, Ricky, and Ricky had he was out with this guy called Sean that he worked with, and something along the lines of the guy was like saying, "Oh, he went with Ricky the one before." No, he was like, "What's the music like?" I actually right. I'll backtrack. Ricky had said to him about another gig,
Yeah.
and he'd been with Ricky to see Carl. Yeah. I can remember what gig it was that Ricky was going with us. It was Iron Maiden, actually, I think. And Ricky was like, "What do you want to go? Do you want a ticket?" And they were like, "Oh, what kind of music is it?" And he's like, "Rock." What they're like Paulo Nutini? What? I know nothing against Paulo Nutini, but like if someone said to me, rap, and like going, what like Will Smith?
Yeah.
It's even at least that's closer than Paulo Nutini. But he was like saying that apparently like the times going to see cars, apparently like he was like he couldn't sleep and only had nightmares. Going, no harm if this is what future generations are that fragile. Dear God, because it's I don't know. It's just really it's not and it's not to say everyone's like that, but to like you say, for music to have an effect where someone's saying they're having nightmares, and it's like their music's not even that,
and it's not
intense.
No, and it's not. There's some like topics in certain metal bands that could freak people out. I mean, that one from Bloodbath, Eaton, it's pretty scary, like topic of a song. So I could understand someone like if they were like thinking of it obsessively, freaking them out. But at the end of the day, it's not the music itself, it's the topic of the song. Like, I'll be honest, some of the topics of songs from some pop music freaks me out because it's just so crass. And that's not me being like, oh, uppity, but it's very much like, how's this getting played on the flipping radio here?
Yeah. I know, like every generation had more. Well, actually, it's gotten a lot worse, I think. Like, but in terms of in the 90s, whenever everything's going, I remember "Boom Boom Boom" by the Here Brothers. You remember that?
Yep.
And it was like, have you heard the dirty version? So, but you know, it was the fact that that version wasn't playing the radio, so there was the censored version.
Yep.
Whereas, like, taking into account, like, we'll take Cardi B, and you know what song I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the fact that they released a radio-friendly version, which probably was more revolting than the uncensored. Give me everything you got for this wet and gushy.
It's like the word moist. It just makes it sound even worse.
Yeah. So I was just like, you know what? Yeah. Maybe you should have picked another song to release an album.
Yeah, maybe just like, or better yet, just don't make a song that's that gross. You know, like,
and then people try and say, "Oh, this is an important feminist statement."
Like, is it though?
Is it? It's like whenever people blow things out of proportion. You're going, I think there's other people who've done more for the feminist movement than WAP.
I think so.
But what's something I was going to say before? Oh yes, the AI thing.
Yep.
Like being able to using that for mastering those songs, because I have no idea what I'm doing mastering. Mixing's okay because you're effectively adjusting layers, making things louder and putting things in certain frequencies, putting on plugins, blah blah blah. General tidy up, and getting it sitting in a nice balanced way that people can go. But whenever it comes to mastering, I know I never went to tech. I never did uni degrees on sound engineering. So whenever I heard people saying that, oh, this thing here, you just feed the way you feed it in, it analyzes it, it sees, you know, it elevates and limits, it normalizes the whole track, but effectively polishes the thing up and glues it, mastering's the glue for a song, and putting them through and going,
yeah.
And like, I sort of thought to myself, is it just me, my ears making me believe it sounds good?
Is it a sort of the Emperor's New Clothes type of situation?
But then reading up online, and the amount of people are saying, yeah, I do mastering all the time, and this is pretty much nearly the same as what I'd expect the output to be.
And the thing is that to be honest, to me that is efficiency because at the end of the day, you're not necessarily wanting to master. You're wanting to make music.
Yeah, yeah. Because
It's an important component, but you could learn to do it, but it's going to maybe take you,
quite a deal of time.
yeah, probably just as long, maybe not just as long, but like just as long as like for learning an instrument
Yeah,
to, because it is an instrument to an extent.
yeah.
So like if you can avoid doing that or spending an exorbitant amount of money for someone to do that for you, like more power to you.
I know. We're still effectively being um, bled dry by every company that's
Yeah.
selling something at the moment. Things that used to cost next to nothing are costing a bomb these days.
Oh,
So
aye.
if you're like gonna find a way to get things done
Yeah.
cheaper and they're still satisfactory,
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's no money to be made in music now. And with the kind of music I'm doing anyway, I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of things being super polished anyway. I think it takes away from,
It sort of makes them a bit more shallow, I
yeah,
find.
it's like it makes them a bit sterile.
Yeah.
And then there's something, once you have that, it's like I've listened to some things that have arguably had terrible production, but for some reason it gives it character.
Yes. Well, I mean, gives it a story almost in the same way that like I like old things, like I like old antiques and like old books and stuff because you can tell that there's a they've had a
Story
life.
behind it,
Yeah, there's a story behind it. They've had a life of their
literally in
own.
a book.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like whilst having a bookshelf here full of pristine books that have barely been read by myself, that doesn't have the same vibe as like old books that have like had coffee spilt on them or they've been dropped in the mud. They've had a life and there's something a lot more tactile about that.
That's the
And I think it's
story.
the same with music.
Well, it's like that example for books is probably why like you get. I know I have a friend and I know she was like saying that she prefers to have books because something about having like a Kindle is just not the same.
Again, the Kindle, it technically does the job and does the job better, but again, it's very sterile because there's no feeling to it. It's just like a tablet.
Yeah,
No, don't get me wrong. The actual like picture quality and stuff is good, and for folks who maybe have like dyslexia or have difficulty reading,
handy.
I think it's great because you can like expand it. So for older folks as well, it's ideal. But if you're wanting that tactile experience of holding a book, or even just like a smell of the paper, if you're gonna get very fanciful about it, like
And the roar of the ink.
that's it. Like I think, yeah, there's that sort of physicality to it, and to be
Yeah,
honest, I think there's a physicality to the music as well.
yeah.
Like I know, was driving back or driving over last time we were doing this. We were talking about like bass. The fact that if the bass isn't there,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it completely sort of deadens the song, really. Because and a lot of folks maybe don't know that they hear the bass,
Yeah.
but they will think, oh, there's something up here if it's not actually there. I
It's
can't put a finger on it, but
it's actually funny because with me doing that and sort of recording the bass and getting it sitting in a way for it to be present that it doesn't drown other things and that it doesn't like affect the power of the drums, because if you have the bass too thick and too present, like the kick of your drums goes, it doesn't have that, and the snare maybe goes, um and like there was one day I jumped in the car and turned it on, the radio came on, and there was You Somebody by Kings Leon was on. And I was like, listen, like usually radio, the quality's okay. But I was actually like going, I don't think I've ever actually noticed the bass in the song before. I don't know if it was from me sitting, paying attention to listen for those certain sounds that then part of my brain's been like, applying to like other music and going, you can hear it.
well, that's your the way I can describe your ear, sort of like picking out different things. It's getting a bit more of a nuanced taste of what is in the music, I suppose, and that's a weird way to put it. It's in the same way that someone who's like, into wine or coffee or whatever, and like feels like, oh, I don't know the difference between this and this. Someone mentions, oh, look for this particular flavor. They recognize it, and now they will always be able to like pick out bits and pieces. I think it's the same with music. Like the more you understand what goes into it,
Yeah,
the more that you'll be able to pick it out and hear.
and
Like,
yeah,
because I know for me, like I have don't really have much of a musical ear, as you well know. But like whenever we've been at gigs and stuff, I know that you've been able to pick out, oh well, the audio wasn't too great over here, or it wasn't quite balanced there. So like you have a really good like attuned ear to all of that sort of stuff. Like I think again, that's just expanding and you're getting a bit more
yeah,
detail.
and then with age, your hearing gets destroyed. Also, when
Oh well, mine's already banjaxed. Like I've that tinnitus stuff, so I'm titty bread. Um, yeah, like circling back to the AI stuff. Do you remember we were talking about the folks trying to put ChatGPT into Skyrim dialogue?
yeah, yeah.
There's actually a companion mode now which uses it. So like,
And you
have you
can
seen it?
have NPCs and they reply and stuff if you're
Like,
talking.
but you actually have a microphone, so you talk to it normally, and it'll respond to you.
Did you not see? I don't know if I actually might have shared it in another chat, and I think it's in yet. There's a guy called on YouTube called I Am Krusty,
Uh-huh.
and he plays games in VR, but he like
Oh
plays like
right.
a character. The best way you could sum it up is he's like a violent Jack Sparrow. But
Oh, I think I've seen a few of his actually. He does like the was it Blade and Sorcery and stuff he's done.
he was doing Skyrim, he was doing Hitman, he was doing that. What else did he do? Pretty much like loads of games, but like he's got like this wee boy following him around in Skyrim that he keeps calling his son, and he's like grabbing him and throwing him across the room and stuff. But like he had that AI in one of the videos, and it was some woman companion,
Yep.
and he's like saying random things, and the thing that like he'll say at times like going, "Go on, have a drink," and going, "Okay, maybe just the one," and stuff like
Aye.
that. And going, but
It is creepy.
there's some of it's hilarious, but um, it's just like that to me was a great idea. Whoever decided, can we not use this in an RPG? Because that's the best place for
Oh
it.
aye.
Now, if it can really take on board what you say and it actually does influence how it reaction, like if you say, "Come on, then fight me," and
Aye,
it's
draws
like
a
things
sword.
like that,
Yeah.
you know, that would be incredible.
Like, and I think the only criticism I have, because I watched a few clips of that female companion in Skyrim, it's like it isn't within the context of the world. So like the fellow that I was watching was like a Twitch streamer, and the companion was basically saying, "Oh, Twitch streamer's not a real job and all that sort of thing." Just absolutely laying into this
Yeah.
fella. He's getting absolutely trolled by a flipping NPC.
What's actually probably the funniest story that ever happened with an AI, and I'm not even gonna go into some of the details in this, but some of it, if you look it up. Do you remember the story about Microsoft tried doing an
Oh,
AI on Twitter,
yes. Oh,
and it was years
jeepers.
back,
Yeah.
and it went horribly wrong. So
End up being like a alt, extreme alt right flipping fascist.
yeah, it turned into effectively the super Nazi.
Yeah.
I that was because
It found
effectively,
4chan.
yeah, it was if 4chan was a person, but that's what it was. It was just effectively Microsoft created this Twitter profile that effectively was going to pick up like things that were tweeted to it and all that, and pick up things on the internet and use that as a basis to develop a personality. And it went from saying like, oh, what a great day, to suddenly saying things like 9/11 was an inside job. And stuff like that, and you're just like, this is amazing. They had to take it down because it just got too offensive.
Oh, it started getting so extreme, like absolutely wild.
Yeah, it was. I think it's happened a few times, but
There's also been a few cases of like, do you know those automated AI bots talking to one another, and like it goes in an infinite loop, and then basically starts turns into garbled nonsense. But they keep communicating, and they end up pulling the plug because they don't understand what they're talking about.
I
The
just
fear is, do they understand
they're effectively developing their own
communication?
dialect. Tomorrow we strike.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you call it? The Turing test, the one where
Turing test, yeah.
that if you have a conversation and back and forth, and you have to try and determine whether or not you're talking to a human or a computer.
Yeah.
And obviously, computer successful if it's able to fool you.
Yep. And I mean, we're miles past that at this point.
Oh yeah.
Like, even this would have been about a decade ago now. There was folks talking, and they were on the phone. Don't know what sort of hotline it was for, whether it was just for like, customer service or something. But something felt a bit off with the person at the other end. Like, it just felt a little too monotone. And they actually asked them, like, you know, are you a robot? And I was just like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Anyway, and just like completely skipped over the response.
Really?
And it was just like, either, I don't know if the technology was that far ahead back in the day. So it could have just been a really good, like staff member trolling. If so, they're absolutely champions. But
it must kill all humans.
oh, sorry, wrong number.
Yeah. Sorry, malfunction. What is the crack with you today? It's kind of scary, but there's, you know what, there could be positive applications, but unfortunately, I feel like there's maybe a lot more to be said about them. The applications being ways to extrapolate money off people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, with everything, it's not necessarily the tool, it's how it's being used. That's obviously people can say that you're sort of throwing away the argument there.
It's like social media, I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think it's great for entertainment, but if you're on it too much, like, I've had days where I've just been in a grumpy mood. End of the day, going to bed thinking, why have I been in such a foul mood today? Oh, I've spent most of the time just doom scrolling through like social media. And it's like, no wonder my flipping brain is probably fried with all this nonsense being blasted at me.
Like, this is where, I do believe if you're busy with other things and you're not looking at as much, suddenly you find yourself, I'm in better form. I wonder why.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if you're able to like get stuff done, I don't know whether that's like a me thing.
Yeah.
But, like, if I can think, okay, what do I want to get done today? Okay, I'll do this, 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 and this. All right, I'm absolutely knackered, but I feel good, and I feel good about myself for getting stuff done.
Because you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
Rather than, what do you do? For ages. There was actually something on the back of that I was going to say, and it's completely slipped my mind.
But AI.
It was something on the back of it. There was a wee
nugget.
Like a wee ember of something else that was like, here, this is interesting, and now it's gone.
So we're talking about AI, talking about it, being a good use for good, but also potentially being a use for bad for social media.
I don't know how I got around to it, and you'll probably be questioning how I connected this. But have you ever, I think I've mentioned it before, InspiroBot?
Oh, I've seen a few of your posts. Is that like those like inspirational quotes?
Now, if you're going to rid the world of AI, please just leave InspiroBot, because
that's your little...
Yeah, it's just it just comes off with nonsense, and usually hilarious nonsense. But sometimes it comes off with like really, like out of nowhere, really offensive language. Like, I had one that I haven't put a video up of, and it literally, it'll say things like real redundant things like, remember to breathe in and breathe out.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Thank goodness you told me that.
Before I hit January, I was holding my breath for 2 years. But no, there was two I could think off the top of my head that were funny. One was literally just, you fuck, which I was just like, okay, what did I do? But then there was one in particular that to me was even more special, because it was a very like UK, Ireland insult. And it just plainly said, and for some reason they had a picture of a dead fly, and it just said, you have always been a wanker. I was like,
meant it not very inspiring.
I know, I don't know what.
I imagine it's just like if a philosopher took all of the drugs, then just pull the like string in the back of them, and then this like sprut that's like
they just put, they effectively just had Plato in a room and just fed him all sorts of drugs, and he's going through the throes of different like ups and downs of different things, So 1 minute he's elated, the next minute he wants to rip out your spine. I'm trying to actually think of some funny ones. Let's see. I've got a few saved because I actually haven't done it in a while, and because I've been just so busy lately.
Yeah.
But
no,
like, how can anyone forgive pigs?
is that a quote?
That's an actual quote.
I was going to say maybe they'll put that up with the background image. I don't know if we'll get pulled down for that.
I know.
It's,
That's what I don't know how they're generated.
It's a lady in a bikini, sort of posing seductively. We'll put it that way.
And then sometimes the images that it generates are hilarious. Like, there's one here and it just said, and to be honest, you could argue there's something to be taken from it. The media, the freakiest story ever told. But the image in the background is, for some reason, a cat wearing a shower cap.
Produce?
I don't know what the connection is, but
I mean, all I can think is, can I has burger from the age-old days of the interwebs?
Yeah.
But that shows you that it's obviously coming up with some nonsense, but people will try and find the deeper meaning.
Well, I want to get a deeper meaning behind this one, and this is. I'll actually show you this as proof to show I'm not making this up. He, actually, I'll let you read it, and then I'll read it out.
Sorry.
He that fucketh his ancestor fucketh himself. I don't know what that means, but
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Again, our large intestines end where our hearts begin.
You need to go to a doctor for it.
This one's pretty special. Porn addiction. You gotta love nudity.
Well, by nature of being addicted to it,
Yeah, I know. It's just like porn addiction. It's all right.
Yeah, take it or leave it.
I know that's something you don't hear in rehab often.
Yeah.
Man, I have to get it fixed because I'm madly amused by this substance.
It's all right, so can't stop.
Yeah, I'm just bored. No, I don't know. More of that from the internet. I can't remember how I stumbled upon it. I can remember if it was mentioned in an article somewhere or what. It might have actually been that I Love Sans Facebook page.
Oh yes, yeah.
It might have been that one. It might have been that, or it might have been another. But I just remember being told it was a computer that randomly generated inspirational quotes, and whenever I started to get some real out there ones. And did I ever mention about the faultlessness mode?
No.
So you effectively it just press it and it generates. Like there would be ambient or like meditation type music. So like musical instruments from the east. And all that, and the sound of waves and stuff like that, calm and stuff. But it's an automated voice, so it'll generate text, and it'll just randomly start telling a story. Like I'll give an example. I'll give you a recording of one to explain to you why these are so funny.
Because when you say AI generated voice, is it going to be like, Microsoft Sam from back in the day, or is it like an actual voice here?
No, it's like a weird monotone voice, but it makes it even funnier. So I'm going to let you hear this as an example. Right, where is it? I'll find this example because you need to hear it. I think it's this one.
To the mic as well.
Oh yes.
Extend your sphincter backwards.
But I'll find this story because there's a story. You need to hear this.
Long ago, in ancient Sweden, there was a lazy widower who had built his home in the desert. One day, a farm boy came to where he lived and said, "Pardon me, kind widower, can you tell me where I can find knowledge?" The widower laughed and replied, "Of what you speak I do not know, for I am but a mere widower. Why are you so friendly towards me?" asked the farm boy. "That is because lawful is the son who cleans his nuts." replied the widower. The farm boy accepted this and became like an enemy to the widower in all meanings of the world. When he came home later that evening, he killed himself.
Oh,
So I have no idea.
dear me.
I have no idea what that meant. But all I know is because I wasn't expecting it, it tickles me.
Just like, yeah, that's.
An AI comedy club. There we go. I'm gonna start it
Yeah, there we
in
go. Yeah.
Belfast. It's gonna be the world's first. Well, you know what? We'll just be like, that's what you do. You get everyone comes in the night and you pick at a random topic.
Yes. Throw out ideas.
Throw
and
it in,
feed
throw
feed
it-
the machine.
Yeah, throw it in. Someone types it in and see what madness it comes up with.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
There we go.
I got $1 million idea.
I know I could be somewhere. In 10 years' time, I'll be like some fat balding guy with a cigar going, it's sitting at the back of his club.
Oh,
Actually, now I need to come up with make it like a cabaret club. AI.
No, you're stretching that too much, man. No.
Oh, now I'm trying to work out how to pronounce it. Cabaret.
It's dangerous now.
I know. I'm starting to sound like I'm
wrong organization.
I know. I consider what's happened over here the last few days. I see your door getting knocked in.
Flip sick.
I heard him say Chucky Arlott. I was making a really shit joke about cabaret and I'm sure, mate.
I heard that before. Yeah.
In the cell down there, he said the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I just sort of think that if I give everyone wants to come up with something that no one else has thought of, but it's then also having the confidence. You come up with, like, you obviously talking about your project, maybe come up with something and you think to yourself, am I, I would love to do this, but nah, I'll feel stupid. What if it doesn't succeed or blah, blah, blah. But if you never know, if you never try, you'll never know.
No,
so
I
you may as well have a go.
100%. I think you need just to give it a go, as you say, and just worst case scenario, it fails, but you know how to do things. You know how to try.
Yeah.
Which is half the battle, to be honest. Like, same with yourself with actually mastering and finishing an album.
Yeah.
How many people are very musically talented, like yourself, but never actually finish an album?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's no small feat.
Yeah.
But it's because a lot of folks are just like, oh, it just like, what if it ends up no one likes it? What if it ends up like I don't like it? At the end of the day, you need to get stuck in and learn as you go.
I'm just now have to believe that for better or worse, you may never release it. You may never make something in your life that's perfect. But it's better to have something legacy wise.
Yeah.
That, not to be morbid. You walk outside the front door and God forbid a grand piano falls on your head. Because Looney Tunes taught me that can happen at any point.
All the time.
But like if you may as well leave something behind, even though the world is saturated and crowded, but fuck, if there's a chance that maybe one person, maybe, I don't know, maybe like they discover something that maybe makes their existence a lot more pleasant.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
100%. I don't know if I've said to you before, but every act of creation is really an act of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know, you can throw something out into the ether, into the internet. You may never see the returns on that, but for all you know, as you say, like that one person gets deeply impacted by it.
Like that story you mentioned to me?
Yes, yeah. Like to give folks sort of context, like someone made an album and we heard them, they were playing at a place and we thought, it sounds all right. So we bought it. Never heard anything from that group again. But I had the copy of the CD, burned it, had it on like hard drives and just had it on a thumb drive being played in the car. But then as like a family member was getting unwell, like we decided, we'll bring in some music and play that as they're in the hospital. So that group will never know like how impactful that song or those songs were in those moments. But if they didn't make that, it wouldn't have been a part of that experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, they will never know that was a thing, but they had to have created that for it to happen. So it's, again, every act of creation is an act of faith, and you never really know the impact of things
Yeah,
over time.
I know. Like, yeah, uh, something like that could have. I know some people would probably argue me and go, "But you're wrong."
Aye.
But something like that probably has more worth to it than someone that maybe has sold millions of albums that's maybe just for some people it's just like reflects who they are at the time, and it'll be just something. Oh, I like to have it. I love listening to it, playing it in the background. But maybe like 5 to 10 years time, they're not even a fan of and it was just like something to fill the silence or something that that was popular at the time.
Scratched an itch.
Rather than having it developing some sort of memory with a song. Like it's funny. Like you can get a song or a piece of music or something that you hear and it takes you back to like a certain time or a memory.
Travel. Yeah.
And you're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so you could sort of see why, like for example, conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia and all, why they say that they find that music's good because it seems to like trigger responses and elicit.
It seems to be like
reactions that way,
like a shortcut in the pathways of the brain almost, like because maybe it's just a different circuit. I don't know, but as you say, the fact is that it will unlock memories and it will sort of open up things that we don't necessarily know that we remember.
I know exactly. It's like going into the coding, and just wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and I mean we don't know how complex the brain is really, which I always find is really cool.
I know, untapped potential and all that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It does make you wonder, like well, we'll probably not see it in our lifetime. I think it's probably because, well, whether or not people think it's unethical to be obviously expert, something like that. You imagine you need a live subject, and how invasive can you be, and when does it become unethical, and who's willing to also
do that?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, based on that, you're probably going to find yourself in a position that we may never know. But
again, it's the question of, is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean, we are talking, we've just talked about the concerns around AI whenever we are working things in code the way we think the brain works. But if we knew exactly how the brain worked from like bottom up and we emulated that, would it necessarily be a good thing? Because then you have something that thinks like a human, exactly like a human,
without the emotional,
without the emotion, the life experience, and also has access to all of the internet instantly. It's bad enough that we have access to the internet constantly on our phones.
Yeah, there's some human beings shouldn't be allowed access to.
Exactly, flip's sake.
But based on that, I mean, you take into account because morality can't be taught.
No.
So if you try and teach a machine, well, this is exactly why you shouldn't kick a small animal.
But I want to kick small furry human.
Yeah. Animal is using resources, must destroy, or something. You're sort of, and then it's again the whole thing with AI as well is unfortunately it's also who feeds it.
Yes.
And who creates its base foundation for how it processes and creates an output, because I'd seen examples of it being asked some divisive questions.
Yes.
And it refusing to answer some, but others it was more than happy to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, based on that, it shows that the AI isn't
free.
Impartial.
Yeah.
It's not totally free thinking. There's been a bit of indoctrination.
Yeah. Little cajoling into its certain worldview, shall we say?
Yeah. So again, it works. There's unfortunately you're probably going to find that there's very, very few people that are truly balanced and biased.
Yes.
To have that opportunity, and there's especially in big industry like AI and certain states in America, there's a culture of like certain ideologies.
Yeah.
So that alone is going to influence the.
And again, it's even if it's not intended to do that, there'll be a natural baked in approach of how you handle things. Like, but I always find it interesting that you can't have a solid discussion of AI without touching on philosophy. Like, I mean, it's that the classic one being the railroad question, of there being like, what is it, four people and one person, like two train tracks, and do you change the train tracks? Like, humans have discussed that for like years and years and years and years without a solid 1-0 true false decision. And the problem is the way computers work is ones and zeros. Again, it can emulate a more nuanced view, but at its core, it's just like an if else. It's one or the other.
That flow.
Yeah.
It would make you wonder if someone asked an AI, "What is the meaning of life?" Well, let's say 42. That'd be funny.
That'd be great.
It'd be funny if it did actually.
I mean, if they're ever going to like bake in like an auto response, hard code and auto response, they have to do that.
Yeah.
Like I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
Just for the meme.
You ever read the book?
No.
Hitchhiker's Guide?
I think that it might be one of the books that I've bought and never actually read. If it's not here, it is on the list to actually buy because it is probably one of the solid like classic sci-fis in my mind.
And the only thing is, the only thing was about it now is that the way it ends, you're sort of like, okay, and then what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those ones that maybe at some point I would actually have to find it where the hell I went in my house, but I would like to finish the series to see.
Yes. I
know some people are like, oh, like the film has a good cast. There's like Alan Rickman's the voice of Marvin and all. It's Sam Rockwell plays Ford Prefect, I think. I think Sam Rockwell is in it, but Martin Freeman's in it as well.
Yep.
Bill Bailey randomly narrates a part. There's a part in the story called, what is it? It's The Infinity Drive. And what do you call it? There's a character with two heads. He's like Siebel Breakbox or something, but he's an alien. But he steals this ship that has the Infinity Drive in it, and literally it's like, the probability of something occurring can be, increased or lowered.
Yeah.
So there's at one point there's like two rockets being fired at their ship, and they increase the probability drive and the improbability drive, but they tinker with it that it turns the two missiles into, what is it, a great blue whale and a bowl of petunias. So the whole joke is that this whale just came into being going, right, what am I? I suppose I'm a whale, right? Okay. Well, what am I doing here? Oh, what's this thing coming towards me? The ground. But yeah, it's the sense of humor, and it's very, very like geeky, Monty Python. That's probably the best way I can sum it up. But the film, I never got to see the film, but I was always curious to check it out. But that whole part about 42 was at one point they're on a planet and the guy on this planet, I can't remember how it comes about, the being asked, what's the most clever animal in the universe, and then was saying, oh, humans are second, and going, well, what's first then? And going, oh, white mice. Like, because the way they're saying, oh, that whole time that you thought you were testing, they were actually testing you. But I something about on that planet, they used to have a civilization, I think, and they got more sophisticated, and they spent like decades, like developing this computer and this terminal, and it going for years researching the answer, and then eventually it turns around and just says 42. I think it explains.
It does. I think it does.
What I remember,
it does break things down to like in a really roundabout way to things like add up and subtract and divide and all this into like 42. I think there is some sort of like
there's a mathematical equation to it. But yeah, I haven't read it. Whenever I read that was I've been away somewhere. Might have actually been away on my honeymoon. So
Oh.
yeah, nearly 7 years ago.
Mm.
But yeah, it's don't really get sci-fi comedies.
No, don't really get. You don't get very many what I would describe as themed comedies. You don't like fantasy comedies. Even you don't get. It always seems to be just modern day.
Usually you tend to find as well the sort of, I think, the sort of feel like, I don't know, it feels like maybe they're the more, they have to make it more maybe crude to get people to
Yeah.
watch it rather
Yeah.
than being happy based on its own merits going, they're writing all this thing.
Yeah, actually having. I don't want to say actually having comedians because that's not fair, but having like non-crass comedians, I think there is very much that. Oh, let's just drop a swear word in here because that'll make it funny. Whilst again, we've talked about Monty Python before, but its humor is that it's just so off the wall and just random.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like the Carry On stuff as well. Like it still holds up. It's maybe not like your belly is sore from laughing funny, but it's entertaining funny.
Yeah.
Whilst and it doesn't need a laugh track.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Yeah.
I think you look at like Only Fools and Horses and stuff like that.
It's timeless.
Just like solid writing. Solid writing will outlast like time, really.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
It's thing as well that comes with it as well. It's having well written characters as well that you, and also the right actor, I think. Because see, like whenever you see, now for enough, it wouldn't translate anyway. But see, whenever I seen clips of the American image winners in comparison to the British one, I'm like, oh, this is painful.
Yeah.
They just don't, that style of comedy of, I don't know, there's just something about like slacking each other.
Yeah.
It's something that only really
very UK Ireland thing.
Yeah.
I find
it doesn't work the same over there. I think it's more because of the fact that the culture over here typically is more self-deprecating and more that you're aware of your faults.
Yeah.
And blah 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 and each other's, but you don't hold it against you type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I know that I've heard, was it you tell me that, but the whole thing that the whole self-deprecating humor, if you tried it with when you were in America, that you get like weird looks, like they don't quite understand it.
Yeah, I've had weird looks before where if I've like made a self-deprecating joke, they don't know if I'm being serious or not, or they don't know if if I say like, oh, I'm stupid at this or whatever, then it's never said vocally, but you can sort of see that they're thinking, oh, is he serious that he's like incompetent at doing that? Whilst even I would say arguably a lot of folks in Europe and Australia as well, like they know fine rightly that you're being sarcastic or it's tongue in cheek.
I know sarcasm seems to be a lost concept.
I think I wonder if it's like a thing of the culture developing over time, because let's be honest, America is still a relatively young country. So I wonder if it's like a cultural maturation maybe over time.
The odd thing is though that it's effectively now really, you may as well say, influenced the rest of the Western world.
Well,
really,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Although it's saying that though, like the people I've spoken to that were American have all been the complete polar opposite of that. The guys that we met whenever we were over in New York, me and Maggie, two of them, that more so even the second guy, but that were trying to get us to go in the comedy club 2 separate days. The second guy, I could have probably sat and talked in this format, like he was, and I think he was even the same. I think I don't know, he was talking away. We're talking about TV shows, films, and everything, joking about things. He was joking. He was just joking about stereotypes. Like about us being from here and him being where he's from, and but yeah, as I say, he was like, there's proof that there are Americans that understand the wider world and that they understand like self-deprecation and sarcasm. But I've heard of other people saying about that, because I know like there was a few of those podcasts, like maybe actually Paddy McDowell saying about that, because of the way he worked out in America for a while, but saying about culture being so different.
Yeah. Like I think I don't. Again, I try to sort of analyze things and work out like why certain things are the way they are. I can't really find a pattern to it.
Mm.
It doesn't seem to be based upon like what certain state or anything like that or city. I think it is just sort of depending on luck of the draw to an extent. But arguably, we have folks over here who can't take a joke
Yeah.
either, or just like
And they're
don't
very
get,
touchy about jokes about
Yeah.
certain things.
So I think it could even just be a population thing
Aye.
where there's so many people in the States that we just hear about the folks who don't get jokes as often. Could well be it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, again, I don't know. I'm still in too much whether or not your sense of humor is like something that you learn from your parents, or whether or not it's like something that you just develop yourself. I know, like, I was watching Shane Todd the other day, and there was a girl, Brona Diamond, on it, and her saying about having a son that's autistic, and saying that apparently, like, they'd explain, her and her husband had explained to him what a joke is, because he's 11, he's about to go in the secondary school. It's like secondary school, you're more likely to get people going, "You're ma," and things like that. So explaining the concept of a joke to him, and now that he understands the concept, he's starting to put it to use. So I'm like, that's interesting, because it's something you take for granted. Like, I have asked people multiple times, I'm like, where does laughing come from?
Yeah.
Like, if you, like, I would have to be a solid time with Carl about, why do things like that, why, and, like, like, debated with Carl to say, the whole thing of, like, I'd agree that animals aren't as intelligent as us. There are some, I imagine that there are some, like, dolphins and monkeys. We don't know to what level, because they're not able to communicate. They don't have the faculties. They don't have the appendages to go, give us a piece of paper, I'll write an equation here. And their thought process isn't going to be anywhere near the same as ours. But like me saying the car that, there must be some kind of thought process at times going on with animals, because, like, you see things that they do that you're just like, but from an instinctual point of view, why would they do that? Like I seen a video online as an example of, like, someone was recording a video out on the roof. There was a crow, and it had, like, the top of a big, like industrial sized tin, like you would say, like you'd use a tin opener, and it was like picking it up on his beak, flying to the top of these tires, putting it down and sliding down the roof of them, stopping, picking it up and going up. And it did this about 3 or 4 times. You're like, what is it getting from doing that?
I think crows are actually intelligent.
I know they're meant to be very intelligent.
It's like, I think they have the intelligence of like a 6-year-old or something like that. So could just be playing for the.
It's just like, this is great crack.
Yeah.
I've heard stories that apparently there's different things about crows. Like, they're like one of the few animals that holds funerals, and apparently there's, like, researchers that have studied them believe that, like, they warn each other about certain people.
Yes, they recognize
So, like,
faces.
so they recognize faces, and they're able to, like, do calls to be like,
This guy's a twat.
I know he's effectively the crows yelling down what Sparrowbot said. You've always been a wanker. But yeah, I don't know. I think birds especially are class. And you know what? I suppose the one downside, birds have all the freedom that everyone could ever want. Unfortunately, they can't stop shitting themselves.
True. Don't have control of their,
No.
their tummies.
They have no control of those faculties.
There's some good aim though.
Yeah.
It's good flipping aim. Anytime they're freshly cleaned car, like, I'm after that.
Yeah. Wait for it.
Oh,
He's washing off the suds.
he's drying it off.
Right.
Go, go, go.
I've been holding this up for 2 weeks. No.
Been stealing pizza all week.
Sure. Carl was saying today that Eileen's sister, and husband, they go back to Australia, and part of me feels bad because of what happened, but apparently they got home and there must have been, like, parrots somehow got down their chimney, but so apparently, like, there's a few dead, and there's just bird shit everywhere. So they may have came down that chimney, and because they've been away, they were over here for a while, and then they were in Spain also. It may have happened the moment they left, and the parrots maybe being at the end of it, or well, in saying that though, I'm telling myself that, but parrots can live up to 70 and 80. So, but I to come home and find like wild parrots flying about your house, bird shit everywhere, dead parrots.
You just want to close the door and get back on the plane, like, wouldn't you?
Going, can we get a new one? I know I've always like we had budgies growing up, and unfortunately I can't have birds now, and I don't know if Maggie would appreciate hearing like say you get a bird, there's some will not be a peep on them, and then there's others just like I can be loud.
Slobbering away.
Yeah, and like we were in the gym last Saturday, and I never knew this. I mean, that was the first time I'd ever seen them. But we were past the reception, we talking to the guy Roy works in there, and there's an African grey on a chair looking out at us. And going, oh, he's in all the time. You went, that's the first time I've ever seen a bird in the belly.
Is it like a grey wall? Is it a camouflage maybe?
No, it's an actual bird.
No. But I mean, like, is there a grey wall, painted wall behind him? Is it like natural camouflage?
Oh, see, apparently, like he sometimes and there's that golf shop down the belly.
Oh yes, yeah.
But this time, like if you walk in the belly and there's the reception and there's an office behind, there was a chair, and he was on that chair, like shimmying left and right doing the side, like. But it was funny because at one point it made a noise and we didn't catch what it. And Roy's going, always copying my laugh again. You know, just strange.
Oh, they're great with animals. Like, I would love a pet crow or something like that, just because they're so cool.
Yeah, again, I suppose that would be the only thing. When it would be, if you have one, it would take you to have either furniture that you don't want to get ruined, with soften down the cover. At least it's easy cleaned. But I remember actually one time, one of the budgies actually was climbing over my head. I was lying on the sofa, and he decided while he was climbing over my face to shit on my lip.
Oh no! Oh,
budgie poo.
They'd be getting refunded at that point. No, there'd be free range flipping budgies at that point. Like
that bird had such personality. It was like he would come out and he'd be happy running around the floor, around your feet, and like he would grab onto your trousers and try and pull it and all. Like he would sit up on my dad's shoulder, and I remember him like getting up on top of my granny's head and moving the hair about and all. I was but the other two, the two after that was effectively it was domestic violence. There was the girl one, the boy one. The girl one just knocked the shit out of the boy one, just headbutt him, and he's
just carrying away.
But as bad as it sounds, the karma sort of caught up with her, because then one day just started like swaying and just falling off the perch, and kept on trying to climb back. Kept on after about the third or fourth time falling. That was it. I don't know if it just. I don't know, but it was just surreal to see, because you're watching it, going, checking on it, and it's because you're like, what can you do here? Because this was at I think this was at New Year's or something. So this was like
there's no 24/7 that like.
But the other budgie, so that was Munchie, it was called, and there was Joey, and it was just like, just casually just eating seed, just watching it, and you know, I don't think there's that level of thought process going on with budgies, but there's part of me wondering, did Joey go, slaps up you?
You did this.
Yeah. Fucking karma. So yeah, I know. But you know what? Even I don't know. You get attached to them, even though they can't speak. There.
That's the thing. Like, we as humans, we attach personality to things very, very easily. But I do think that animals do have personality.
Yeah, I know. I think there's people who are guilty of personification with animals, that they literally believe that they see things the way we do, and unfortunately, it's not the case. I wish it were. In fact, I've always said I wish animals could speak.
But it depends on the personality of the animal. Like my two Jack Russell's like one of them. Literally, would be, you shut your mouth and give me food. You demand and we brat. Like,
that was the one you mentioned that would lie in, or is that
Like, those are doing it. I think none of us said this story before on the podcast, but I look after the dogs sort of every so often overnight, and I let them sleep in the bed. But like, I'll get up, go downstairs, start work at like 9 o'clock. One of the dogs, happy enough, follows me, gets a wee treat, and then goes up on the sofa, another wee nap. The other one doesn't bother his backside. Literally, he'll look up, he's like, oh, okay, goes back to sleep. About an hour later, I'm like halfway through my coffee in the morning, maybe having breakfast, and all I hear is, and there he is, right as rain. It's like, right, okay, where's my food? It's like, you wee brat, where were you?
I love that. I like the fact that they've got their own personality, though. It's
It is great. Like,
um, more so than some people.
well, yeah, that's certainly true. Some people, yeah. I just sort of think some folks maybe don't get a lot of exposure to life experiences and maybe doesn't develop a personality to a degree.
It's like you earlier on talking about Twitch streamers. There are people that are there's some I've seen online that are some YouTube content creators that are legitimately funny, and then there's some I'm just like, why have you got such a big phone?
Yeah, like
I know, I don't know.
In the early days of Twitch, it would have been either you were entertaining or you were very, very good at the game. And like, don't get me wrong, if you're like an esports type of player, you're not exactly able to be entertaining because you're like dead set focused on getting as good at that game as possible. So fair dues to them, like, and that's why people watch them because it's like the top tier of that gameplay. You're seeing how it should be done. But nowadays, that sort of esports type of vibe is gone quite a lot. But there's still, like as you say, folks who are very much just like streaming, playing a game the way that most of us would play a game, which is like completely silent, just playing away.
And then there's fucking political commentators. What do you call him, man? Hassan or something like. He just sits there and watches things, and he's. What's more annoying about him is the fact that like many years prior, there's plenty of clips of him being edgy. That like to do a complete 180 to what he's doing now. You're like, well, clearly you just adapted to how like culture's changed.
That's the thing. I think it's
so you can't really turn around and say who is the real person here.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Like I think if you're in a public space in a public forum and if you've made very strong dead set like statements and opinions and then you later decide to change those opinions, you do need some public discussion to explain just explain what's changed really because you can't just flip flop. That's not fair on people. That's, as you say, it gives off the impression of being disingenuous.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I'm of the belief that I know like there's different situations maybe where maybe someone has told you, I think it was this, maybe it's something that didn't directly affect them. So you can, give someone a Bible that maybe, they've heard like a version of events that aren't true and you've got that version or they've remember something false. But if you catch someone out actually actively lying, like they were part of, like say there's been a falling out, and some people may say that's their version of the truth, but
people say these days people say the truth is subjective, but it's
not.
No, your remembrance of it may be true to you, but the actual acts of what happened, those are objectively true.
Here's an example. There's a song by a fella from over here called Ricky Warwick, and it's a real cheesy chorus, but the lyrics are very true. What is it? Three sides to every story. Yours, mine, and the truth.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's I'm not gonna say it. But I like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and the difficult part is that the actual truth is somewhere in the middle. Because even if you try to be as objectively accurate and true as possible, there's still stuff that you're going to miss out, deliberately or not deliberately. Just our brains don't pick up every single detail. And it could be that one little piece that the other person brings to the table, which completely unlocks the actual reality of what happened.
Well, that as well, and that whole thing. What do you call? Is this Mandela effect? The one where maybe it's a different term, where like someone hears a story that someone told them, and somehow in their brain they remember it as them.
Oh, it's not Mandela effect, but I know what you mean. They, it's
I think,
almost they place themselves in that
and
story.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think Mandela effects where you forget you misinterpret your own memories and generate parts that never happened, wasn't it,
I
or
think
something like
it's.
that?
I think we talked about this last time, but like I think it's where you remember. I only know through like media, like stuff, but it would be like everyone. One silly example was everyone remembers that Pikachu had three stripes on his tail, but he didn't, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, it's like a general mass false consensus.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's it's I suppose the idea of that original meme theory. Like that sort of mental virus, the idea that just spreads through and everyone accepts it, but it never really happened. It happens for movies and stuff where you
hmm,
remember, oh, this character did this and that thing. It's just like if you watch it again, it's like, what the hell was that?
uh,
You know?
yeah, and people forget get sayings and
Yeah.
quotes.
Aye.
Ron all the time, people turn around and go, actually, no, that isn't the quote.
There's that one like from Waterworld, the quote, what is it? Dry land is not a myth. I have seen it, but apparently it's never said in the actual film. But again, I think that's an example of Mandela effect where everyone believes it is has been said in the film, but apparently it's never in there.
I'm saying there's probably quite a lot of a lot of those with American politics,
I think
like sayings with inaugural speeches and all that. I bet there's a few there. Well, like I was gonna say, I feel like in the back of my head there's one to do with JFK, but it's not coming to me.
I think it's a to a degree. I think it comes from like your brain filling in the blanks.
Aye,
Like there's sort of a pattern to a story that your brain has, and so if it doesn't quite fit that template in your head, your brain will find sort of little bits. Seem like a dream. Your brain will just manage to stitch things together into like an acceptable story to your brain.
yeah,
I think it's maybe a waking version of that, I suppose.
aye, yeah. Uh, Dreams again. Like I said last time, I wish I could record them, but
Yeah,
probably better that I can't.
yeah, because I think you drive yourself is absolutely mental trying to understand them, and also probably remembering the things that you forget.
Mm.
Because apparently you dream constantly, but we only remember like the last tail end. Just the way whatever way time works whenever we're asleep, it feels like it's been the entire night. I don't know how it works.
Like Inception.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm assuming that comes from some grain of truth that time moves differently while you're sleeping.
No, I'd agree. There's been times where I keep on having weird dreams and then wake up and going, oh, it must be really late night, and you're like,
2 minutes.
it's literally like it's been like 15 or 20 minutes. You go, what?
Yeah, I've had that before. It's just like it's always funny when you have a dream. It's either been a good dream that you want to get back to, or it's been like a bad dream that you want to like resolve. You want to go back and finish that fight or something like that, and then you try and like go back in the right to sleep again in the right way just to go back to that particular dream. Never happens.
No, it's always completely different scenario. That's a universal thing.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I've always tried to like every so often I'll try and keep a log of things again, just like if it's been one that sticks with me throughout the day. It's like, you know what? If it's gonna be stuck in my brain, I'll just write it down just so it's out of my brain and can like get on with the day. Because some of them are just too weird to try and work out.
And there's ones that I'm literally like, I don't actually see. Like people say, oh, it's snippets of what you were thinking about during the day. I'm like, well, like that time I mentioned the story about the horse and the blue G string. I'm like,
Yeah.
what was I thinking about that day? Well, I'll not go into that.
But also the thing of your brain when it's dreaming can't make up faces. So
Yeah.
any faces that you see or people that you walk by on the street, if you haven't like picked them up, but your eyes and your brain actually
Mm-hmm.
so basically puts them in like a big data bank for dream usage.
It's effectively like dream deep fix.
Yeah, exactly.
Dream fix.
Dream fix. There we go.
Never go. I've just came up with like an alternative rock band name for when this is done. Hey, we're Dream Fix. This is Faces in the Crowd.
There's the debut album.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, there you are. There you go. For one of your projects.
Just have to find time for it now.
That's the trick, isn't it? Yeah. Shall we call it an episode?
Oh yes, I'm only realising the time. Ouch.
Is it late one?
Half one.
Okay. Well then, we shall wrap this up, folks. I hope you all enjoyed. And yeah, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Dr. Nick.
Forgot about that, actually.